What's up, San Diego?
San Diego, turn it up. From the dugout to the sidelines, from the front office to the fan in the stands, this is where San Diego sports comes to be heard.
College athletics is the gift that keeps on giving. This is why I love this stuff.
He's not just talking about the game, he's driving the conversation, breaking it down, calling it out, and saying what everyone else won't.
They start licking their chops, man, when they hear like, oh, look at all these guys the Padres could potentially trade.
This is the voice San Diego sports trusts on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
We're your favorite show's favorite show.
This is the Braden Surprenant Show.
Think about the children. The family show.
Now, here's Braden Surprenant.
What's up, San Diego? And a happy Thursday to everybody out there in America's finest city. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Good to be with all of you today. Nice hot day out there in San Diego. It's the dog days of August here. I'm fired up on a Thursday, though. Roundtable got me fired up with the salary cap conversation. I'm just tired of hearing the whole narrative that like anybody could do what the Dodgers do. Nonsense. It's just a tired act. It's just a tired act. I mean, and people just make it up because of the fact that they don't see the books of like the teams. I mean, they just think these teams are just, and they're making a ton of money. Let's not get crazy here, but like the Padres have tried to do what the Dodgers have done, and guess what? They ran out of money. They can't afford pitching. Anyway, we're going to get back to that conversation maybe later on in the show, but we do have to talk a little bit about last night. I don't want to spend too much time on last night's game because it was tough to watch. I think Mark Grant said like this stinks a couple of times on the broadcast yesterday on television. Yeah, it just wasn't a good. It wasn't a good game by the Padres. And I don't want this to be, okay, so in the grand scheme of things, I'm going to look this from a macro perspective. I thought for sure the Padres, like if they split with the Diamondbacks, they're going to be in a good spot. They're still tied with them on the season series. You get them at home one more time for 3 games. You take 2 out of 3 at home. You win the season series against the Diamondbacks. You're okay. Okay? Like, I thought that. I said, did I not say that, 2 days ago when they lost the first game, Frank? I said, you got to focus on trying to win 2 out of the next 3.
Yeah, we kind of predicted that it was going to be a series split.
Try to get a split right now. I mean, you're trying to just hang around still. You still want to make your push. I'm not saying like last night is okay, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. This is a very important game today, though. I also think, due to the fact that Casey Mize hasn't pitched in 11 days in the middle of the season as he was humming through a good portion of his season, and the fact that, his life got flipped upside down, I'm not surprised that he had a bad outing. I'm not. It happens. It happens. And I don't think that's the Casey Mize we're going to see the rest of the season. I mean, the trade deadline moves as much as like they can help your organization. There's going to be some fallback. And just because it's the first outing for the guy doesn't mean that's what the outing is going to be every single time since then. Okay? It was the perfect storm for Casey Mize to have a bad day. He ends up going 2 2/3 innings last night. It was the worst outing of his professional career. Right-hander openly called his performance embarrassing. So he had that credibility, right? He has that. He's holding himself accountable. He has that accountability. I mean, they tried to give him some excuses. He didn't want to take them, but I think there's something to be said about why something happened, even though it might sound like an excuse. I mean, an excuse is him going like, I had to deal with all this stuff. That's why it went really poorly. Holding himself accountable is saying that was embarrassing. But you can still address the fact that he had 11 days he hasn't pitched. He's with a brand new team. He had a hell of a day the last couple of days just getting to Arizona. I don't hold that start against him. I really don't. I mean, he entered the game with a 2.70 ERA. He ends up leaving with over a 3-something ERA. That's how crazy of an outing he had. I mean, he gave up the most runs ever in an outing for himself. I mean, he had not pitched in 11 days because of the trade process. His normal routine was disrupted after preparing to pitch for Detroit before being traded. He dealt with travel, joining a new clubhouse, loading a new catcher, adjusting to a new organization. Craig Stammen believes the disrupted routine contributed significantly to the poor outing. I believe that as well. Mize refused to take that as responsibility, and or as an excuse, and he flat out said, "This is embarrassing." You know what? I respect that. Padres are treating this as an anomaly rather than a sign of trouble. I am doing the same thing. He's got Milwaukee next week. That's going to be a prove-it start for Casey Mize. Okay, he struggled, obviously, but the offense, again, failed to do anything against a bad pitcher. And I don't know if we're going to play the video for you, but we are going to explain a little bit more about this in the later segment. There was a video that went out, on YouTube. A Foolish Baseball did a video review, and they basically did it to just out the Brewers for being frauds. But in trying to say that the Brewers are fraudulent because their weighted on-base average is like top in the league against bad pitchers and really bad against good pitchers, ended up showing that the Padres are the exact opposite of the Milwaukee Brewers. They had like some, and we'll explain what was going on with that in terms of like what they determined a good pitcher was and what a bad pitcher was. They basically picked like 50 pitchers that qualify to be very good pitchers and about 50 pitchers that qualified to be very bad pitchers, and then took what the Padres or what every team in baseball had done against both of those groups this season. The Padres are the worst team in baseball against, quote, bad pitching. They are 30th. They are the worst team against bad pitching in all of the league. Nobody is worse against bad pitching than the San Diego Padres. That being said, when the Padres play the top 50 pitchers in Major League Baseball, they have the 8th best weighted on base average. They actually do incredibly well against good pitching. And you know what? I tell you what, this series kind of proved it, did it not? You know, Brandon Pfaadt had been on a good. I'd throw Brandon Pfaadt out of there on Monday. He's been solid this year. He's been solid, but you look at the last two games. Everybody in the YouTube chat was talking about how, Brandon Pfaadt was good, but like, oh, God, how are they going to do against Eduardo Rodriguez? I mean, he's an all-star. He's their best guy. They shelled his ass a couple of days ago. Shelled his ass. 3 runs in the first, 3 runs in the second, ambushed him early. No doubt about it. He's one of the better pitchers in the league. Padres destroyed him. And then we get to Bratt last night. I mean, we're talking about a guy that had a 5.23 ERA entering a game. We're talking about a guy that could not go more than 5 innings all season in either the minor leagues or the major leagues, and he had only done that like once. And he goes like, 7 innings last night? Allowed 1 hit? I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, talk about an offense that plays to their level of competition. That's not a recipe for success. It's great that they play really well against good pitching, but they got to figure out how to stop the guys that aren't very good. They got to figure out a way to score runs on these guys that aren't very good. They cannot continue to tip their cap at a dude like Bratt. I mean, are you kidding me, this guy? This guy. 5.23 ERA. That turned into Cy Young last night against the Padres. Padres continue to beat elite pitching and get shut down by inexperienced or struggling starters. I meant 7 runs off Eduardo Rodriguez, who had a 2.48 ERA. Completely shut down by Brandon Pfaadt. Completely shut down by rookie Mitch Bratt. I mean, it is unbelievable. It's honestly impressive. It's impressive how this offense can't do anything against somebody as bad as Mitch Bratt. Mitch Bratt. Now, Playoff teams usually beat bad pitchers. The good news is, well, I think it's setting up pretty well, Frank, for the Padres to do well in the playoffs. Because you know what you see in the playoffs? You see good pitching. So, maybe they want to go see some of these good teams that have good pitching. But the offense last night was absolutely putrid. There was a couple of times they probably could have scratched back in that game, and they could not do it against Mitch Bratt. And I think that was the bigger story. Look, Casey Mize, rough day, right? Rough day. It took the offense way too long to get going. It would have been better if Kyle Hart could keep the deficit at 4 or 5 runs. I mean, the fact that they allowed all those runs to score in that inning, that huge inning that they had, is beyond brutal. And I think that really sets the tone for the offense to be like, all right, whatever. But all things considered from last night, as bad as it was, they don't get 2 extra games in the win column for beating the Padres like that. And you could still stay on track. But today's a little bit more important than all the other days because a win today keeps you in the exact same place you were before you went to Arizona. It keeps the season series at 500 against Arizona, which I think is going to play a factor later in the season. It keeps pace with everybody else, right? And then you get ready for the weekend against Houston. But if they lose today, now they're 3 games out of a playoff spot, and that's definitely not a good place to be. That's not where you want to be. Arizona would have a 1-game lead on the season series, which means you would have to sweep at home to potentially win the season series. This is a very important game for the Padres. And more so than any game over the weekend. The games against Houston they matter, but these games are a little bit more significant with how big the swing is for the wild card. So you got Walker Buehler tonight. He's got a 5.18 ERA. Padres surprisingly 15-7 when Walker Buehler makes starts. And during the team's worst stretch, he had a 1.99 ERA. Padres won 4 of 6 of his starts. Walker Buehler has changed his mindset a little bit. Instead of trying to be an ace-level dominance, he has embraced the 5 competitive innings, keep the team in the game, give them a chance to win. And that's what you're calling for in today's game against the Diamondbacks. You saw the Fernando Tatis Jr. Chris Paul hits a 3 last night. Oh, man, that ball was smoked. As soon as he hit, I'm like, Chris Paul hits a 3, which is funny. And then I went out and tweeted the Chris Paul hits a 3 gif. And then I responded with, that ball was smoked, though. I mean, you had the 465 feet, 114 miles an hour. Now ties Adrian Gonzalez for 161 career home runs in a Padres uniform. 3rd all-time in a Padres uniform. Only Manny Machado and Nate Colbert have more home runs than Fernando. And Nate Colbert only has 2 more home runs than Fernando does. So, last night, that's not a night that you're going to say, it's over, the season's over. Last night is also not a night that's like sitting here going you know what? It's just another game. But it's got to be flushed now. It's time to move on to Thursday. It's time to move on to what Walker Buehler could do tonight against the Arizona Diamondbacks and get a win. I mean, last night's game, Frank, was frustrating. I'll say that. But we kind of expected a little bit of a rusty Mize. Probably not as rusty as we saw yesterday. Offense didn't do anything against a bad pitcher. It's a tough loss, but we said it a couple of days ago. Find a way to take 2 out of the next 3 after you lost the first game. You're still continuing on pace, but that means they got to ramp it up in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and to be fair to Casey Mize, 3 of those 8 runs weren't directly allowed by him. They were allowed by Kyle Hart. So 5 runs, 3 walks. That I think is probably the biggest sign of his lack of work over the last 2 weeks is the 3 walks. He missed a lot around the zone, at least later in that game. He still threw 47 strikes on 77 pitches, but you could tell he was definitely rusty. And people make fun of me with this all the time. I say the same thing with hitters. There is a difference between playing in the American League and playing in the National League. So he's also making that adjustment, as well as you mentioned, learning a new catcher, the travel to get to Arizona. I mean, there is a lot going on as far as Casey Mize is concerned. So yesterday, as far as he's concerned, that was definitely an outlier as to what you would expect from him out of the rest of the season. But the offense, you really have to do better against the guys that you should beat. It's great that you're beating up on the guys that you shouldn't, but it's not good that you can't beat up on the guys that are going to give you the best chance at winning on the other end. And a guy like Mitch Bratt last night, and a kid like Cole Drake today, who's coming in with a 0-0 record and 4.85 ERA. Thank you, dyslexia. You should be able to beat up on a kid like him tonight.
Yeah, you should. And they kind of have to at this point. And it's going to be an interesting game to watch today against the Arizona Diamondbacks. But last night proved what the Rays broadcaster said at the beginning of the season true. One inning for the team that won was more than all the runs that you scored as the losing team. What did they say that happens? Like 75% of the time or 70% of the time? Yeah. That happened again last night. Arizona got all their runs in one inning, a 6-run fourth inning. I mean, where they could not stop the bleeding. Casey Mize was all over the place in terms of location. And then Kyle Hart, I mean, when you come into those situations, you got to find a way to get outs as quickly as possible. And he could not stop the bleeding last night. I mean, Kyle Hart ends up not giving up any earned runs because they were Casey Mize's runs. And, but Casey Mize is a guy that throws a lot of strikes, and he didn't yesterday. He walked 3 batters. He's known for not walking anybody, and he walked 3 batters yesterday. He gave up the home run, the 8 runs on 9 hits. I mean, I chalk that up as your one, right? I mean, that's kind of a fluke at this point. So I'm not really concerned about that. I think he'll be okay. Griffin Canning made it even worse there in the 9th inning, giving up 2 earned runs. Or sorry, the 8th inning, giving up 2 earned runs against the Diamondbacks. To make it a 10-4 game instead of an 8-4 game. But, the Padres all around did not have a great day. They got 3 hits all night. I mean, even if the pitching was somewhat like half as good, they still needed to hit, and they didn't do that yesterday.
Speaking of hitting, don't want to let this one slide. A good job, good at bat by Gage Workman. Late in the game, pinch hit opportunity, gets a bases clearing double. I mean, that's a very good way to welcome yourself into this team. So I don't want to let that one slide because of how bad the rest of the offense was. That was a very good at bat and a nice hit by Gage Workman in his Padres debut as well. The
ABS challenges yesterday were also terrible. They were out of challenges by the 3rd inning. It's like, what are we doing, guys? I mean, they got to be able to lock it again tonight. So we're just getting started here on the Braden Surprenant Show. We're going to talk more Padres baseball. Career worst day for Casey Mize. We'll talk more about that. 11 o'clock hour, we'll get an update from the Lake Elsinore Storm again, just because Pivetta and Musgrove are up there this week. So Josh Richardson will join us at 11 o'clock. We will get into more Padres stuff. We got NFL training camp things we're going to get to as well later on in the show. Lots to get to on the Braden Surprenant Show. San Diego Summer Sports Station 97 through the Fan. For the first time, the SEC and Big Ten are officially supporting federal legislation that could completely change college sports. After a month of negotiations, both conferences have backed the Protect College Sports Act, a bill that would create national NIL rules, restore transfer regulations, and strengthen eligibility standards and give NCAA more authority to enforce those rules. The compromise also raises the revenue sharing cap to more than $40 million per school while trying to close NIL loopholes that schools have been using to spend even more on athletes. Now the bill needs 60 Senate votes before Congress leaves for recess. If it passes, this could become the biggest piece of college sports legislation since NIL was introduced in 2021. Will Congress finally deliver the stability college athletics has been searching for? Well, it's one of the biggest storylines in college athletics right now. And for the first time in months, there appears to be real momentum toward a federal solution that could bring stability to college sports.
Yeah, so after weeks of intense negotiations with lawmakers, the 2 most powerful conferences in college athletics, the Big Ten and the SEC, have officially endorsed the Protect College Sports Act. The conferences had previously withheld support over concerns of NIL restrictions, revenue sharing limits, conference governance, and future expansion. Following last-minute revisions to the bill, both conferences agreed that the changes addressed enough of their concerns to publicly support the legislation. That's significant because without the backing of the SEC and Big Ten, many lawmakers were hesitant to move forward with the bill. Now the legislation has its strongest momentum yet and heads now towards a Senate vote.
So the Protect College Sports Act would create the first comprehensive federal framework for modern college sports. Among its biggest provisions, gives the NCAA and conferences antitrust protections to enforce rules. It creates national standards for NIL compensation, restores limits on immediate transfers by allowing one unrestricted transfer, and reinforces standardized eligibility rules, which creates stronger oversight of athlete compensation. Perhaps most importantly, though, the bill attempts to bring consistency to a system that's largely been governed by lawsuits and differing state laws over the past 5 years. If passed, it would represent one of the biggest changes to college athletics since NIL was introduced in 2021. And I like this. I mean, I like a lot of the things that are in there. I mean, I get the only thing that's a little bit negative is they increased some of the revenue sharing, which I think a lot of the big schools benefit from at $40 million plus. They put in some caveats to it to make sure that they're investing in other sports besides football, which is not the end of the world. I mean, the SEC and the Big Ten were going to come out on top on this for sure, but it definitely has put in a lot more oversight to college athletics, which it is desperately needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially when you look at cases like what we talked about last week on the show with the kid from Tennessee. Like you complain and you see all these things about the NCAA losing all these cases that they should be winning as far as athlete eligibility. And then they go and do something like that where you sit a kid out for 2 weeks because of a $400 flight while he was debating whether or not to join the NFL. So this now gives these guys a format to follow, both the NCAA and the conferences, to where stuff like that doesn't happen anymore.
Will Congress get it across the finish line, though? That's the biggest challenge, because the Senate still needs to bring the bill to the floor before lawmakers leave for their August recess, and it requires 60 votes to pass. If successful, the bill would then move to the House before eventually reaching President Donald Trump's desk, where the administration has indicated support for federal college sports legislation. And while there's finally optimism after months of negotiations, there's still no guarantee the legislation reaches a vote before Congress leaves Washington, which leads us back to our old I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only the Schoolhouse Rock song, if you will. For anybody that hasn't seen that, maybe you got to go back and rewatch. There could be a lot of issues with the bill getting it through, but I'm just glad they have, this conferences collectively have agreed to this. Congress wants to get this thing done. So hopefully they're able to make this thing happen. I think it's good for college athletics. I think the money being a little bit high hurts some smaller schools. And the big schools were always going to get, some love here, but limiting transfers is huge. I think honoring contracts is huge. I think some antitrust law exemption is huge. These are all things that college football absolutely needed before they allowed NIL, and they finally got it.
Yeah, and looking at some of those things you had mentioned, the $40 million must be distributed differently. They'll get $22.5 million for athlete retention, so more than half of that is going to go to athlete retention, as well as $5 million dedicated to not only women's sports, but Olympic sports as well. So that's part of where that extra $40 million comes from.
So this isn't over yet. I mean, the next week could be one of the most important recent college sports history. So if the Senate schedules a vote before recess, the Protect College Sports Act could move one step closer to becoming law. If it misses that window, the bill faces a much tougher road as 10:23 on a Thursday. Big Padres game tonight against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Is that like 1 hour earlier today? Is that what it is? Or is it normal time? Still 6:40?
Still think it's a 6:40.
Still 6:40 start.
Oh, I see.
I just know Tony was complaining about the travel.
Let's confirm.
After the fact. I think Arizona just keeps it the same. Yeah. The Padres give like an hour early. Why do they continue to have it at like 6:40? Like, is that better for the fans that don't show up to Arizona Diamondbacks games?
It was empty.
It's been empty all week.
My goodness.
My college roommate was from Arizona, dude.
For a second place team too.
My college roommate was from Arizona, and he was just like, dude, the Arizona people do not care about the Diamondbacks. They just don't. They get so irritated with the Diamondbacks because they like He had this huge thing. He was like, I stopped being an Arizona Diamondbacks fan when they were more worried about what the food was and less worried about what the roster they kept throwing out there.
Yeah.
But seriously.
This one's interesting to me. Speaking of game times, I was listening to Gwen and Chris on the way to AutoZone yesterday.
Get in the zone.
Why is the Saturday game 7:15 or 4:15 start?
Is it supposed to be on national?
No.
It's not on Fox?
Nope. San Francisco, Detroit have the West Coast Fox slot.
The only reason why that would be like that would be because the game is on Fox or like some type of deal.
There are 2 games on Fox. Both start at 4:15.
Are they on Fox Sports 1?
No, there's 3 games that start on Fox.
I mean, they could be on another network of some kind. They're on TBS or anything like that?
Nope. They are on locals. That's it.
The Padres don't like the 410s. I don't know why they would make it a 410 game on Saturday.
Meanwhile, San Francisco, Detroit. On Saturday, San Francisco, Detroit, Baltimore, Texas, Cleveland, Chicago are all on Fox and all have 4:15 starts on the East Coast. Oh, no, wait. No, 4:15 starts here, not on the East Coast.
Correct.
My bad.
Yes.
I played myself on the time difference.
It says it's to accommodate national and regional television broadcasts, so maybe it is on something national. Who knows?
Not what it's showing.
On what, Fox's deal?
On MLB, it's showing follow the game, watch on Padres.tv and Space City Home Network.
Space City Home Network. Interesting. All right. Well, I think it's usually because of
it's
the
showing
national.
it's showing it's on KFMB too.
Well, every Saturday game's on KFMB.
Yeah, but other than that, nope, nothing.
That's weird. I don't know why they would have the game at that time then. Except for the fact every game is at that time on Saturday. There's only 2 night games. It's at 5:10 and 6:50. Interesting. The other one that they changed things for, like the Rock and Roll Marathon, but I don't know. That's usually on a Sunday, and I don't remember what day that thing usually is.
And again, they do have the national Sunday night game this week too. So.
Oh, maybe it's on. So the guy said it's going to be on ESPN and TJ. So maybe that's the case. Maybe that's why they're doing it. I don't know. Anyway, let's go back to this offense from yesterday, or lack thereof. And I think it asks an interesting question. There's a couple of questions from last night's game I want to get to. Number one, what worries you more, Casey Mize's debut or another offensive disappearing act? And I think it's the offense being the real problem. Yes. I mean, to me, that's the question on here. It's the first start after a whirlwind trade, 11 days between starts, new organization, new catcher, disrupted routine. One outing shouldn't erase the 2.70 ERA that he has this season. So for me, I just I throw last night's start for Casey Mize out the door. I don't think that's something that we have to be worried about. But I do think the offense not being able to hit rookies and not being able to hit bad pitchers is a massive problem. This has happened a lot. And Mitch Bratt dominated them. And Mitch Bratt is a guy that just has not been good really all season. He's in his rookie year. His ERA is plummeted since the start. I mean, he's got 6 starts this year in Arizona with a 3.90 ERA now. He did pretty decent, I guess, in AAA Reno in his 13 games he has pitched down there. But I mean, this is a rookie pitcher you should be able to absolutely tag at the big league level, and they just didn't. I mean, he'd given up 5 runs a couple starts ago. So, I mean, 7 innings is the most innings he has thrown in a handful of years, and it's just very underwhelming for the Padres the way they had offensively. The other big question too here is to go back to the offense. Can the Padres trust this offense to win a playoff series? Ben asked the question on the roundtable today. It's when the season officially comes to an end, what's going to be the thing that does the Padres in? And we all agreed it is the offense. My answer was a little bit different than being predictive, but The only reason why I would say that you could trust this offense is because of the fact that they actually hit really good pitching really well. And they can't hit bad pitching. You don't see a lot of bad pitching in the playoffs. But what you can't do is you can't have nights where you put up a ton of runs and then you just get absolutely shut down. You can't be having those games. And so, I know the ceiling is high. I know Eduardo Perez mentioned, they're all hitting you're hitting a lot better now and everything's going great. And this team's hitting their stride at the right time. But there are too many games where this offense completely disappears where they can't have that in the postseason.
Yeah, especially after the night before where you have 16 hits. That's not a great. It's not great. It's very Jekyll and Hyde. This offense, and again, it comes against a guy who you should be doing damage against. You get 16 hits off a pitcher that's got a below 3 ERA, and then you have what, one hit against a kid he hasn't pitched past the 5th inning in his entire career, majors or minors.
I can't believe it's too much of a feast or famine offense, and it's just the problem is we've unfortunately seen that offense in 2024, and we saw that offense again last year in the postseason. There's too many times where they just get completely shut down at the plate, and that's a massive problem. I mean, I think the pitching is going to improve with the new additions that we have acquired, and I've already mentioned that I think last night was a one-off for Casey Mize, and we'll see how Robbie Ray does on Friday against the Astros. But I think the pitching staff is good enough to win. I think the bullpen is definitely good enough to win. The offense is as good as they've been in the last month. They still throw these clunkers in there, and last night is a missed opportunity. It's not the end of the world if they win today. They'll just be exactly where they were going into this series on Monday, with being one game out and right there, in contention and relevant, which is great. But it was a missed opportunity to leave Arizona in a playoff spot, which I guess at the end of the day, they still would have had to win again today if they won yesterday. But it would have been nice to be back in a playoff spot. Instead, they're 2 games out behind Arizona. They could be within 1 game if they win today, and then they got to focus on the Houston Astros. So obviously, it needs to be a lot better from an offensive standpoint. That's my bigger takeaway from last night's game, more so than the pitching staff. But there's some glaring numbers that show, since 2025, this Padres team has just played to the level of their competition, which seems great when they're hitting pitchers that are going to be playoff pitchers, but it's not great when you're facing guys like Mitch Brott. And we'll talk about that when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego Summer Sports Station 97 to the Fan. right, 10:39 on a Thursday. We're going to talk about this Padres offense against good and bad pitchers. So this is since 2025, and what an account did on YouTube, Foolish Baseball on YouTube. He did it basically to show that the Brewers are frauds. And in the process of saying that the Brewers are frauds, we learned a lot about the San Diego Padres and the offense. Coincidentally, it's not really about the Padres. It's not really about the Brewers. It's actually a video about the Padres. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. It's the Braden Surprenant Show. San Diego Sports Station 97.3, The Fan. So what are we talking about? Well, we talked about it earlier, and Kevin Acee put it out in his newsletter about the fact that the Padres are not good against bad pitching, and they've been good against good pitching. And I think anybody that watches the Padres understands that, especially after the last couple of days. Against Eduardo Rodriguez on, was that Tuesday? They shelled him. He's one of the better pitchers in Major League Baseball this year. Against bad pitchers, like yesterday, they get shelled. So, let's talk about this. According to this little bit of information, if you will, from Foolish Baseball, okay, they determined that what a good and bad pitcher is. So they went with 152 pitchers with at least 120 plus innings pitched as a starter since 2025. They took the top 25% as good pitchers, the bottom 25% as bad pitchers. So the top 38 pitchers and the bottom 38 pitchers of Major League Baseball since 2025. The good pitchers are guys like Andrew Abbott, Matthew Boyd, Hunter Brown, Chris Bubik, Chase Burns, Garrett Crochet, right? Nathan Eovaldi, Max Fried, obviously Jacob Mizorowski, which skews the Brewers a little bit because he's on their team. Christopher Sanchez, Cam Schlittler, Paul Skeens, Tarek Skubal. And for those watching on YouTube, you can see the full list of names. You know, guys like Nick Pivetta is on that list after the season he had last year. These are considered like the top 25% of pitchers since 2025. And what he did was he went through and rated the offense. And, he rated them based on weighted on-base average, which is a deeper dive into, like, how we have offense here in Major League Baseball. You know what it is? It's like the weighted on-base average is like, I'm trying to think of, like, the best way to...
I think he said it's an average of batting average, on base, and slugging.
Well, I know what it is. I'm trying to, like, describe it for people that don't know. I mean, so it measures the hitter's total offensive value, I think is the best way to describe it. And it assigns precise statistical weights to every way a player can reach base. So obviously it weights a little bit more of, like, slug, and it just shows you, like, how good you are as an offense. It's more than just batting average and on base and slug. And OPS, and what it does is it uses historical run scoring data to determine the exact value of each outcome. So these values are derived from linear weights, which reflect how many runs a specific event adds to a team's expectancy on average. Because the run scoring environment changes slightly each season, platforms like Fangraphs recalculate the exact coefficients. So a typical formula is a little bit more complex that you would see, but the rule of thumb is it's to make an offensive stat specifically highly intuitive, and the final result is scaled to match the familiar look of on-base percentage. So, good weighted on-base average rating, like 400 or higher is incredibly good. 290 or lower is poor. 370 good. 340 above average. 320 is about league average. 300 or less is below average or poor. So that's kind of the rating scale. So like the weighted on base average is a way to really give you a better look at, like, how guys are getting on base. Is it doubles and triples, or is it just singles? And so it's a good standard point for, like, rating an offense entirely. So here is what, and so those are the good, as we mentioned, the good pitchers. Let's get to the bad pitchers real quick, just to kind of show you what some of those guys' names are. Which is interesting. Like Sandy Alcantara's on there. I mean, he obviously didn't have that great of a year last year.
He was coming off of Tommy
hurt.
John, so that
But he's on there right now. Like Walker Buehler's on there. Griffin Canning's on there. Eric Fetty's on there. I think J.P. Sears is on there. There's a lot of Padres on here.
Yeah,
former Padres. Chris Paddock's on there.
Kyle Freeland, Miles Michaelis, Dustin May. And the guy said as he was doing this, he said some of the guys and the good players have had bad stretches, and some of the guys who are in the bad players have had good stretches. But this is based off of overall, like Roki Sasaki is on there, and he's starting to kind of figure it out right now. Brendan Fought's on there.
Tamayuki Seguno.
Yeah, Spencer Strider's on there.
So that's a look at it. Let's take a look at how teams in Major League Baseball have done against bad pitching. Just for the people on YouTube. So if you see on the graph there, and you might have to zoom in a little bit, at least on my sheet because I have two screens up at once. But if you look at the bad pitchers, so it lists all who the bad pitchers are on the left, if you're watching on YouTube, and then it lists like what the weighted on base average is. Over the last 2 years, the Chicago Cubs have done the best against bad pitching. They have a 380 weighted on base average, which is above average collectively. You go Milwaukee's number 2, Boston is 3, the Dodgers, Minnesota, Detroit, Atlanta, Houston, Cleveland is your top 10. Those are teams that have done extremely well against bad pitching. But then you look all the way at the bottom. The San Diego Padres are 30th in baseball over the last 2 years against bad pitching.
Remember how you said league average was 320?
League average is 320, and I said 290 or lower is poor.
Yeah, they have their 3 teams. Only 3 are below 320.
Are below 320. It's Cincinnati. It's Washington. Surprisingly, Washington, who's been very good this year. Now, again, this dates back to 2025, so that explains a little bit. And then the Padres. I mentioned 290 or worse is like poor, not necessarily like below average. The Padres are 295 for their weighted on-base average against bad pitching. That's incredible. That's incredible. Padres have just not done well against bad pitching at all. I mean, you can say what you want. You know, maybe our guy Bailey here that runs Foolish Baseball is proven that the Brewers aren't very good and they might be frauds. But right now, just looking at it, if the Brewers are frauds, then like, what are the Padres? The exact opposite of frauds. 290 against bad pitching is just remarkable. It's really remarkable. Now let's take a look at the good pitching. So these are good pitchers again, like Andrew Abbott, Matthew Boyd, Hunter Brown, Chris Bubick, Chase Burns, Garrett Crochet, Jacob deGrom, Jacob Mizorowski. Like these are some of the good pitchers.
Logan Webb, Cam Schlittler, Chris Sale,
Carlos Rodon when he's not hurt. These are good pitchers. And this is what the teams have done in Major League Baseball against good pitching. The Cubs still at the top, all right? Those guys rake, okay? They still got a weighted on-base average of 311. The New York Mets are second best. Does that surprise you?
Yeah, especially trotting out guys like Wagaman in a lineup that costs $350 million.
Now, again, none of these numbers are that great. Like, you're still, like, in the poor range, right? The Padres are actually the 8th best team in Major League Baseball against good pitching. They're only a couple of spots off of what they were for bad pitching. They go from the worst team in baseball to the eighth best team in baseball when it comes to good pitching, which doesn't surprise me based on what we've seen out of this team. Now, again, it's not very good, right? It's still not very good. I think some of this is a little skewed too, because if you're a bad team, most likely you don't have good pitching, which means you're going to face more good pitching than you're going to face bad pitching. So I can see why teams like the Angels and the Royals are up there, and maybe even the Athletics and the Mets, right? Like, they're going to see a lot more good pitching because they don't have the good pitching. I think that's a little bit of a caveat to this, but just looking at the numbers, it kind of confirms what Kevin Acee wrote about today in the daily newsletter, that the Padres have relatively played down to their competition, which is not something that you really want to do to be a successful team. You want to take care of business against teams that are below you and then, hopefully go toe-to-toe with some of the teams around your caliber or better. And I think the biggest takeaway from this is the Padres play down to their competition, and that's not something that leads to success on an athletic field. It doesn't, Frank. And these are the numbers that prove that.
Yeah, and again, I mean, there were also a lot of Padre pitchers on that bad list as well. So guys that you're not facing all that often. So I mean, it has been it was a very interesting watch last night, for sure, seeing that video and just seeing how the Padres basically hit the same against both. There's only a 0.01 difference in WOBA compared to them against bad pitching and good pitching, but it puts them at completely different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, you can't win like this. You can't win with, and this is why you get the Jekyll and Hyde games. This is why you're so up and down. It's why the offense disappears. It's like, I don't want to say that they take some of these pitchers lightly, but based on like the numbers that show, it definitely tells you a story that they're not. There's no reason why they shouldn't just tag these guys. It's an anomaly that they are. It's either incredibly bad luck or they're not getting geared up as well against bad pitching as they have against good pitching. And tonight is another bad pitcher. And so I think they got to, I don't know if they're, I can't say that they're not taking this seriously because I'm not down there. That would be unfair. But they have to find a way to improve these numbers against bad pitchers. And I know you're going to see good pitchers in the playoffs, but the bad pitchers might knock you out of the playoffs before you even get there.
Yeah, and that's kind of where you're at right now. You're sitting now 2 games behind the Phillies and Diamondbacks. You're a game ahead of the Nationals, who helped the Marlins, sorry, who helped you out by losing yesterday. You're a game further ahead of Cincinnati, who are tied with Los Clemente right now. So it's still a very, very tight race, and you're not guaranteed either way. So you really do need to figure out, for as good as the offense has been recently, this is the thing that they still really need to figure out.
Yeah, and so hopefully they could do that again tonight against the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's a very important game for the Padres. I mean, just looking at where they are in the standings, of course. Like yesterday, a missed opportunity to really get yourself into a playoff spot. Those games are going to happen, but they're running out of time to allow that to continue to happen. They could have been in a really good spot. Instead, they're 2 games back of Arizona. And just looking at the wild card standings, they're 2 games back of Philly too. Philly lost yesterday. It would have been nice to just be a game back behind Philly and been in a wild card spot. Still have a game lead on the Marlins, a 2-game lead on St. Louis. Like some of those other teams that you're competing with are starting to slip a little bit more. I mean, Washington's won only 2 out of the last 10 games. I mean, they have really plummeted since then. The Reds haven't done very well either. But there's 2 things that the Padres just can't seem to get over the hump for. It's one, that one game to get them into a playoff spot, and 2, every time they make up ground in the run differential, they have a clunker like last night. At least they battled back for 4 runs, so they only lost by 6, so they didn't lose 10. But there's 17 runs under on their run differential, which obviously needs to get improved if they want to make the playoffs a little bit. It's not an end-all, be-all, but it's a good teller to see where you're supposed to be. And so I chalk last night up as a missed opportunity for the Padres.
Yeah, the Pirates are only 2.5 games back, and they get the pleasure of facing new Milwaukee Brewers ace Dustin May making his debut tonight.
Yep, that's the guy that's got to get over the top, huh? That's the guy?
Yep.
That's the guy. Shoot, you could have been under 10 games behind the Dodgers the way they've been playing baseball. Lost 6 straight.
Oh.
Foul! No, 2 fouls.
Horrifically bad pun in the chat.
Not great.
Nope.
Yeah, just looking at the American League standings again are like just a battle right now. Detroit, Minnesota, Seattle, Baltimore, Cleveland, and Texas are tied for the final wild card spot. I mean, Toronto's been pretty good. They're 3 games out of a wild card spot. The American League is going to be very interesting to see how they play out. I think it's going to be funny when some of these teams that sold the deadline just missed the playoffs and go, what could have been? What could have been if we actually tried? There's going to be some teams that bought at the trade deadline that have been like, you know what, maybe we should have sold. That'd be the hindsight at the end of the season. But anyway, Padres, tough game yesterday. We're going to table that. We're going to get an update from the Lake Elsinore Storm. Firsthand, Josh Richardson was down there calling the game for the Storm. We'll hear what he had to say about Nick Pivetta and Joe Musgrove's outings that he saw in person when we return to the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego Sports Station 97.3 The Fan. Broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios, we know how. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. All right, so we have, as we usually do, we have our local broadcast, or our minor league broadcasters that come on with us once a week to give us an update on what's going on in the minor leagues. Obviously, this week was a little bit different, considering the fact that we had, well, it was the trade deadline, but we also had Joe Musgrove and Nick Pivetta up in Lake Elsinore, at the Diamond in Lake Elsinore, for a fun kind of appearance against Tyler Glasnow and the Dodgers single-A affiliate. And on the call for that game that we were all watching was the play-by-play man and Josh Richardson, who joins us now on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bang Banking, it's better. Josh, what's going on?
Braden, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. I had a little bit of some fireworks the other day, but how cool is it for you to call a game that had Tyler Glasnow and Joe Musgrove and Nick Pivetta in it? A little bit of a shakeup, huh?
It was really cool being there. I mean, it felt like a big league game. You know, you're going and just kind of looking at each side and being like, wow, it's kind of surreal. And then you realize, okay, they're still going to pitch. They're still trying to do what they need to do so they can get back up into the show. So it was fun.
Let's talk about how these guys did from your perspective. What maybe some of the goals were for them going into, the rehab assignment. Starting with Joe Musgrove, because he didn't have nearly as much should I say, headlines around his outing. He looked pretty good from what we saw. You know, his first inning was pretty solid. Second inning got himself into trouble, but then he got out of it. Seemed like he felt good after the fact. What was your takeaway from Joe Musgrove pitching for the Storm the other day?
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, he said it himself after the game. He felt really good about things, and he said that, it was a big step to just get back onto the mound and just kind of check that box off into his way of getting back. I mean, he hasn't pitched in a big league game since 2024, outside of spring training and everything this past spring when, he did end up hurting himself. But that first inning was really, really smooth for him. 1, 2, 3, no problems at all. And that second inning started to get away from him a little bit there, walked a couple guys, gave up a run on a wild pitch. But, I mean, he realized that when he exited that second inning and got out of it, he said, I felt better going out there for the third inning than I did after the first inning to go out there for the second inning. He said it was weird, but it was just kind of his way of really starting to get back into a groove. And, we got 2 outs in that third inning. He got pulled after that, really started to hit that pitch limit. He was right around 40 pitches on the night. It was 39. But overall, he was really happy with how it was. And, sometimes the breaking balls, he didn't exactly, overall he thought he executed a lot of the pitches well. It wasn't as sharp as he wanted it to be, but, kind of the shapes that he was getting on those breaking pitches and off speeds felt good. So he said he's going to pitch again in probably about 5 or 6 days. And, if that's in Lake Elsinore or if that's with another Padres affiliate, that's going to be pretty cool. But he's feeling pretty good after that first start.
Talking with Josh Richardson, the play-by-play voice of the Lake Elsinore Storm, the single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. Let's talk about Nick Pivetta. He got the first 2 guys out, gave up a hit, then looked like he had a strikeout, and he was walking back to the dugout. And then it just kind of got weird from there. He started walking back. It didn't look like there was anything to make of it. Sounded like somebody said something in the dugout. He had this kind of weird realization after the fact. He goes into the clubhouse. The reports after were, he got a little bit of a maybe nervous about some arm discomfort. Then he ended up throwing 20 to 30 pitches. From your vantage point, what happens on that, very now infamous play from Nick Pivetta up at the Diamond at Lake Elsinore?
I mean, it was really weird. I mean, you said that word, and I think that's probably the best way to put it, is it was just a strange situation. And it looked, it was a 2-2 fastball. It looked like it caught the outside corner for strike 3, and that probably didn't help the case to add on to some of the confusion is, did he think it was strike 3? Did something happen on his arm? It's difficult to tell. It would have been a lot easier if it was just a pitch that missed down in the dirt or something like that. But it was really weird, and he just kind of ran off the mound, and he took his glove off, and it seemed like maybe initially he thought it was strike 3 and the inning was over, and then he never came back out. I mean, he was very quick to go into the dugout and just kind of brush past everybody. And I feel like when there's something of that much significance to not realize or not take a second to think that, I need to go back out and finish, it probably might have been something that he tweaked. But that was the report that came out after the game, was he felt tightness in his elbow, and he came off the mound. But then after the game, he threw a 30-pitch bullpen session and felt perfectly fine, at least to the report of Bob Nightingale. And so I think that kind of goes to show that, maybe just in the moment, in the heat, it was 100 degrees, maybe he just kind of felt something that wasn't right. And, he didn't want to risk anything at that point. His velocity was starting to trend downward throughout the inning. He started right up in the mid-90s, 94, 95, and that last pitch was down around 91, 92. And so with a velocity dropping that quickly in an appearance, it definitely could, help the argument that, maybe there was a little bit of tightness there and he just needed to get out of the sun and not risk anything else happening. At the end of the day, Nick Pivetta cares about getting back up to going back down to San Diego, not as much as, him helping the Storm try and win a game, right? So he has to kind of do what's best for him in that sense. And, if he felt better after the game when he threw a bullpen, that's great. And you just hope that he, will remain healthy for the foreseeable future. But it certainly was a weird situation.
The weirdest thing is when he paused and then he had like this, and he looked visibly upset. Was that, did anybody say anything from the dugout? Did you hear anything? It seemed like there was a little bit of confusion there, and then all of a sudden he stopped. What was your vantage point on that? I know you were calling a game and trying to answer the questions too, but did you hear anything?
I couldn't hear anything specifically. It just seemed like he was, initially, I think everyone's first reaction was, it's a funny moment with a pitcher, and he thought it was strike 3, and he thought the inning was over, and he was heading back to the dugout. But I feel like at some point, someone would have yelled at him and be like, Nick, that's only strike 2. It was a ball, and you need to go back out there. But, I think he maybe initially started like that, and then he realized, my elbow doesn't feel good. I don't really want to risk anything, and he just kind of kept going. It's tough to tell. At the end of the day, the only person that actually knows what Nick Pivetta was thinking in the moment was Nick Pivetta. So I think we're just kind of at the liberty of, whatever happened with him, and he kind of knows it. But at the end of the day, he needs to do what was best for him in that moment. And if he felt elbow tightness, I don't think any Padres fan is going to want him risking the construction of his UCL or any other ligament in his right shoulder or arm or elbow to, finish out an inning in a Lake Elsinore game. So I think if Pivetta can just keep on working back up and stay healthy, I talked to Musgrove about it after his start, and, he and Pivetta really, really want to get back up to the majors by mid to end of September to try and help the Padres with that late postseason push.
We're talking with Josh Richardson, the play-by-play voice of the Lake Elsinore Storm here on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bang Banking, it's better. What was the reception from the Lake Elsinore Storm players of having, two pros down there in the on a rehab assignment? That's always kind of a cool thing. What was their reception of having those guys for a day?
Oh, they all loved it, and it was funny because I was walking down to talk to Brian Perez, the Lake Elsinore manager, and give him, stat packs and, schedules and just full stat lines and box scores and everything and whatnot like that before the game so they could have it for the week. And I was walking down there and I walked into the clubhouse and there's a taco truck that was like not taco truck in the clubhouse, but they were talking about it and how it was going to be there after the game. But what was in the clubhouse, there was a coffee cart, and it was an 11 a.m. game for an education day. It was the last education day game that the Storm would have this season at 11 a.m. So bright and early wake up for a lot of these guys, and Pivetta and Musgrove both chipped in and got everybody a coffee cart for all the guys. And Joe said after the game, well, you know what, we got a Cold Stone truck for them later on. So they tried to do a little something and leave some gifts in the locker room and just kind of do all that. So I'm sure the players really appreciate it, and I'm sure it was a lot of fun for them to kind of be around two big league guys, especially the pitchers, right? And try and learn from them, you know, whether it's during the game and in between innings, or whether it's after they're out after their appearance or start, and just kind of pick up some tips and tricks. I mean, it never hurts to have a guy that's up in the show down in single-A baseball to try and learn from. But I think they really liked it.
Focus more on the actual, players that are there each and every day. What's the latest update on who's kind of been hot and who's not?
Yeah, so the Storm lost a lot of guys. There was a big roster turnover yesterday. So George Bilecki, unfortunately, was released. A couple of other pitchers were as well. But some guys that got called up to Fort Wayne, Bradley Fry, who's been having a really nice year. Connor Westenberg, who's stolen 45 bases, he went up into high A as well. So a couple guys that get left, Jose Verdugo, the 18-year-old in the middle infield, top 30 prospect in the Padres org. Jorge Quintana, a big name as well, the shortstop. Those are the two guys that have, really been playing well as of late, especially going into this Ontario series. Jorge Quintana was on an over 20-game on-base streak. It was incredible. And it was 22 games that Quintana got on base consecutively. That got snapped back on Tuesday, but he had really been playing well as of late, and he's going to need to keep picking it up as we head into this final stretch of the season after some big roster turnover.
Yeah, a lot of roster turnover. I usually like to ask about the trade deadline. You got kind of lucky this year. Not as many moving parts of the trade deadline, but what was Monday like down in Lake Elsinore, just in case?
Yeah, well, so I wasn't there. I was taking a personal day and went and saw some family. But
if you're going to take a personal day, the trade deadline is probably a good day to do it in the minor leagues for the San Diego Padres.
Well, there wasn't a game, thankfully.
Yes.
No games on Mondays, which is nice. But I was glued to my phone the whole time, so I was always checking, and I saw the Casey Mize trade, and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, oh my God, who did they give up? Who did they give up? And the Robbie Ray trade as well. And I was like, okay, was it anybody from us, or was it anybody that, was up in Fort Wayne now that had been playing for Lake Elsinore earlier in the season? I was really curious. And then I saw it was Cash, who was in Lake Elsinore last year when I wasn't here. And it was just kind of funny like that. But I was waiting to see, Ryan Weidman get traded or Ty Harvey get traded or something crazy happen like that. And it's like, oh, wow. So get ready to learn Detroit or San Francisco, buddy, because you're not going to be here anymore. But they stayed around, which is pretty nice.
That's great to hear. Josh, appreciate you checking back in. I gotta get the Storm back on track up there, Josh. Let's try to get us a win tonight against Ontario.
We'll do our best.
We appreciate the time, as always. Josh Richardson joining us in the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bang Banking. It's better. Good information there in terms of the rehab assignment. And obviously, we'll see what they decide to do with Pivetta. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do with Pivetta per se. And yesterday the report was pretty good from Craig Stammen. And I think we have it on our Twitter account on 97.3 about what the day after was. And that was like the big report that we were waiting for, of course, was how do these guys do the day after pitching, and it seemed like it was smooth sailing for the Padres. But here's what Craig Stammen said yesterday pregame, talking about how Pivetta and Musgrove felt the day after pitching.
Yeah, Joe came out great, had a normal day after throwing. He didn't throw today, but normal day one of recovery. Felt good. Nick did his normal day one of recovery also throughout the 90 feet, so he's getting checked out by the doctors just as extra precaution, but the way it sounds right now, it's all systems forward.
That's what best case scenario, and especially the second one, I would imagine.
Yeah, exactly. You never know when a guy walks off the mound, what's going on. It was, an interesting way of leaving the game to begin with, and you just got to trust Nick a little bit in this scenario. And, he's been around. He knows what it feels like to pitch with a good arm and with one that's a little sore, and he's got to find out what that, temperature is that he can handle. And right now it feels like he's still going forward and not stepping back too much.
Good information there from Craig Stanton. But that was the biggest thing out of the rehab assignment. And we heard, Tim Stauffer was on the roundtable today. If you missed it, you can go back and watch on YouTube. You can also listen on the Odyssey app, the Rewind function, or wherever you get your podcast. He mentioned how difficult it is to do the rehab assignments because it's just, there's nothing. He said there's nothing that you can get out of a rehab assignment that's going to simulate any type of major league game. In terms of the adrenaline rush, in terms of the energy, in terms of the size of the ballpark. I mean, you're out there getting some game reps, but you're never going to get to that point. And so the biggest thing here is, can you go through a game situation in which it's not like in a controlled environment, and how do you pitch? How do you feel the next day? That's, to me, is the biggest news from this rehab assignment for Joe Musgrove and Nick Pivetta. I would imagine that Joe Musgrove is probably continuing to stay on track here. We'll see when they announce when he's going to have his next rehab assignment. But if they could get Pivetta back, which I think is a major if now after this week, and I know the reports the last couple of days have been a lot better than what we saw with our eyes, but the whole time I have said the same thing over and over again. I think you'll be lucky to get one of the two back. It's so hard to account for injured players where you don't know when they're going to be back or what they're going to be on. But if you get both of them back, I think they're the perfect scenario for a piggyback situation. But even if you just get one of them back, Frank, I mean, getting a guy like Joe Musgrove as part of pitching chaos, I think that plays a little bit. I mean, he could piggyback off of somebody, or maybe he starts and you get Walker Buehler in after him, or, I think you could potentially do a Robbie Ray 5 innings and Joe Musgrove for the final 4. I mean, I think you can do a lot of different scenarios for the postseason with adding a guy like Joe Musgrove and Nick Pivetta, or just one of the other two. This pitching staff.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect Musgrove to be fully relied on as far as going out and starting a postseason game this year. I think if they thought that he would be able to do that, if they wanted to push that envelope, that they would have gotten either one. They would have gotten only one, either Casey Mize or Robbie Ray, and not both. Because right now you're setting up your starting rotation as King, Ray, Mize. That's how you're setting it up if you were to make a playoff series. And that would leave Vasquez and Musgrove or Pivetta, as well as Walker Buehler, as your long options off the bench as far as a playoff series goes. So I think not necessarily getting Joe or Pivetta used to starting games and going long, like going 5 or 6 innings this year, I think might be the best course of action for them. Ease them back in and then get them ready to go their full normal 100 pitches, whatever that they're used to doing, ready for the 2027 season.
Based on what Joe Musgrove says, he thinks that they're going to expect him to go out there and try to give him innings. I don't see him being able to do that. Well, maybe he will. I mean, maybe he can get him 5 innings in September.
You still have Joe next year, so you can kind of look forward for Joe next season. Musgrove depends on what happens. 15 days from today? Something in that range.
Is that how many days he's got left on the
so.
rehab that he has? 20-something days or whatever it is?
Well, no, he's got they both have rehab until the end of the month. They both have to.
Oh, you're talking about Pivetta and the
contract.
August 20-something. Yeah. I don't think he pitches before then.
I don't think so. I mean, they can
not after what we saw this week.
They can stay on rehab assignment until the very end of the month, like the last couple days of the month. For Pivetta, he would have to come off of rehab early to make his contractual deadline.
I think Musgrove makes it to that contractual deadline that doesn't affect him. I don't think Pivetta does. That makes sense.
I would agree with that.
I think that might be the case.
And I think it would be because of, hey, I felt something in my elbow
right.
a couple days ago.
833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We got to take a quick break. We can continue the Padres conversation on the other side.
Chris,
NFL training camps officially underway across all 32 teams, and every team has major questions to answer before week one. The biggest story, quarterback battles. Cleveland is deciding between Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders. Minnesota choosing between Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy. Atlanta has Michael Penix Jr. battling Tua Tagovailoa, and Las Vegas must decide whether or not they're going to start rookie Fernando Mendoza or go with the veteran in Kirk Cousins. Around the league, several stars are entering make-or-break seasons, including C.J. Stroud, Baker Mayfield, Keon Coleman, Puka Nacua, and Nick Bosa. Super Bowl contenders are also in the spotlight. Seattle beginning its title defense, while the Rams look loaded after adding Myles Garrett and Trent McDuffie. Add in 10 new head coaches, major roster battles and preseason games just around the corner. It'll be on Thursday, to be exact, the Hall of Fame game. And the road to the 2026 NFL season officially underway. Let's go around the league. Let's start talking about quarterbacks, where there are 5 legit quarterback battles entering August with the Falcons, Vikings, Browns, Raiders, and Cardinals.
Yeah, and Michael, we talked about a lot of these last week. Michael Penix Jr. Versus Tua Tagovailoa, very real. Are expected to battle once both return to full health. Penix is recovering from an ACL injury, while Tua dealing with back issues. For the Vikings, Kyler Murray versus J.J. McCarthy. They have been splitting first-team reps so far during training camp, with a decision to be made before joint practices begin later on this month. Cleveland is going to be Deshaun Watson versus Shedeur Sanders. They are alternating reps as well. Vegas, Kirk Cousins versus Fernando Mendoza. Why would you start Mendoza? I have no idea.
Because you're the Raiders.
Arizona has Jacoby Brissett versus Gardner Minshew versus Carson Beck. Why is Gardner Minshew being considered?
That's shots fired at Gardner Minshew.
I'm just saying, you just restructured Jacoby Brissett's deal. You drafted Carson Beck. I understand that Gardner Minshew's had a couple of flashes in the NFL, but let's be honest here. This is between Brissett and Beck, please.
I think so, too. And Beck's looked pretty good so far, but I just, with Arizona, I still think they're not going to be very good. I still can't believe you can go into a season thinking Jacoby Brissett's going to be your leader of the team in terms of this on-field production. I think Tua is going to outdo Michael Penix Jr. The Kyler Murray, J.J. McCarthy thing is very interesting. Even if you go with Kyler Murray, is he going to make it through the whole season? Has he been able to make it through the whole season? He makes a lot of mistakes too. And how about J.J. McCarthy already? I mean, I know he hurt himself for the first year that got watched. He didn't look very good last year, and I just don't know, if he's got what it takes to be that everyday guy in Minnesota. I mean, this is make or break for them. Cleveland, Deshaun Watson, Shedeur Sanders. That's kind of a rock and a hard place for the Browns. I look at this, and even though we have legit quarterback battles, Frank, a lot of these options aren't very good, across the board. It's not like you have 2 really good quarterbacks battling out for a spot. I mean, you got 2 very average at best quarterbacks for everyone. The only one that's not is the Raiders' dilemma, but you don't want to get your rookie guy killed.
No, absolutely not. That makes absolutely no sense.
There are several quarterbacks that are also entering make-or-break seasons. C.J. Stroud, Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, Jaden Daniels. How about Baker Mayfield being disrespected? He didn't get a contract extension. Come on, man. I mean, you've been on so many different teams. You're not at that level. And he's played some pretty good quarterback in the NFL. He's been he has lasted a lot longer in the NFL than I thought he was going to.
Same.
But every time you think he makes a step in the right direction, he takes another step backwards in terms of being likable, if you will. There's a lot of players that have everything on the line in this training camp. We talked about Michael Penix Jr. already, Shedeur Sanders, obviously, but a couple of players that are not quarterbacks. Keon Coleman, he admitted himself this is a make or break year for him in Buffalo. Roma Dunze, after a struggling year last year, with the Bears, where they have a lot of other weapons that they could go to. I mean, he's looking to bounce back after injuries and inconsistency, trying to improve his production. Rashee Rice, he needs both production and improved off-field decisions entering free agency. And then you got a couple other players that near the elite level, like Puka Nacua. Can he match his elite ability with his? Can he match his maturity with his elite ability? Nick Bosa is returning from an injury for the Niners. They have a lot of guys that are make or break with some injury news. And then Baker Mayfield, playing for what could become one of the NFL's biggest quarterback contracts, but a guy that I don't necessarily know if he's going to get said quarterback contract.
Yeah, there's a lot of position battles as well across the league. A lot of teams that have big issues that they're trying to figure out. For the Browns, Vikings, and Falcons, again, quarterback. Bills, left guard, protecting Josh Allen. That is one of their biggest things that they have to figure out in this training camp. The Chiefs have multiple starting cornerback spots that they need to fill. Cowboys, left.
11:25 on the Braden Surprenant Show, broadcasting live from our Bill House studios. We know how. Baseball coverage on 97 through the Fan is brought to you by Xfinity. I had the liners up, and for some reason it's not there anymore. So I got to pull it back up. I'm just glad that Chris Ello has to deal with the same blackout problem on the screen as I said yesterday. Baseball coverage on 97 through the Fan is presented by Xfinity. Score the most reliable Wi-Fi. One price, 5 years guaranteed. Xfinity, imagine that. So when you texted me that, was that practice?
Yeah, I kind of figured.
I immediately texted Scraby. I said, tell Chris that happens to me 500 times a show. And he was like, well, Chris is technologically impaired. And I'm like, well, that's cool.
I'm not.
I'm not. So this is obviously a problem. Haven't had it too much today, though. For some reason, Baseball Reference and Fangraphs, this computer does not like at all. Does not like at all. So, I got a bad part of the wing right there. You know, like the chewy part of like one of those tender wings? Yeah, now it's, try to get it in before the break. Anyway, Brewers, Jackson Chourio, 1-0.
Which I laugh seeing Jackson Chourio hit that home run, because if you watch that video that we referenced at the bottom of the 10 o'clock hour, they said that Jackson Chourio has been by far and away the Brewers' best hitter because he doesn't follow the Brewers' mentality of don't swing. Chourio swings at everything, and he is by a mile their best hitter.
Let's talk about a question that was posed on the roundtable that I think is interesting. I gave my answer on the roundtable. I'll repeat it though. And it was at the end of what would give you the justification, or in reality, what would give you the notion that the Padres in 2026 had a successful season?
Make the postseason.
That was my answer. I think just making the postseason is successful for this team, considering all the circumstances.
Yeah,
I know a lot of Padres fans don't want to hear that, but based on who they brought in to compete for the number 5 spot in the rotation, based on what the starting pitching has been this year, based on the fact that Pivetta and Musgrove have missed the entire year so far, relatively the entire year so far, I think making the playoffs is your new expectations for this team. And if they do not do that, then you would fail expectations, therefore it would be a failure. But I don't think you could really get mad at the Padres for making the playoffs and losing in the playoffs, especially with how good some teams in the National League are, specifically one that seems to be loaded. And I just think since they have a 40-something% chance to win the World Series. That's their odds on Kalshi. I think 29 other teams are like hoping they make the playoffs and like see what they could do in the playoffs. I mean, I think there's only one other team. How many teams do you think could give the World Series or bust expectations for? Like win a World Series or bust expectations considering what the Dodgers have?
Just them.
I think
them,
it's just them.
Or the Yankees potentially, but that's because of
I
their
would've
name,
said-
not their team quality.
I would have said Milwaukee if they didn't completely bleep down their leg at the trade deadline. I would have said Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee not really doing anything of value at the trade deadline aside from like picking up dust in May. I think they could have been a team that was like World Series or bust.
Got a shutout going.
It's the first inning. The bottom of the first inning.
Semantics. Stop.
But outside of that, like what would you consider it for every other team right now in the National League? There's a couple that I think you would have. Like the Brewers' expectation right now is we're going to the NLCS.
Yes, 100%.
Dodgers and Brewers should be, the Dodgers need to be like win a World Series or go home. I mean, if they don't win a World Series, it is a catastrophic failure with the team that they have. But to me, like the Brewers' expectations needs to be getting to the NLCS. Atlanta, like the way that they've been kind of playing this year, it's been up and down. It's a lot more up than it was down. They added, not really at the trade deadline. Atlanta and Philly and Chicago are like put a good showing in the divisional series. Would be my guess. Maybe not Philly. Philly like making the playoffs, I think is probably good. I mean, their offense isn't very good, like so far this year. It got a little bit better with Luis Ariz, but I'm sure Philly fans are thinking World Series or bust. But if the Phillies make the playoffs, considering what they have, I wouldn't consider that to be a failure if they lost in the first round of the playoffs.
No.
I wouldn't. Same with Arizona and San Diego.
I mean, they also had, of course, your expectations change over the course of the season, but with how bad this team was to start the year, that had to really adjust everyone's expectations in Philadelphia. And then they started to turn it around, and now they're faltering again. But again, as we went over yesterday, they got to play the Cardinals twice, both at home and in St. Louis, at home versus Miami. They're closing out a 4-game series today against Washington. Then they welcome in Toronto. They have a 3-game set against the Twins with an off day on Friday. And then they're going on a West Coast swing to Seattle, Anaheim, and then Arizona. So they don't have the most difficult schedule up. So, yeah, it should be make the playoffs for them for sure. And then after that, it's kind of divisional series should be based off of where we were projected at the beginning of the year. The divisional series has to be a should be, but beyond that, you're playing with house money.
Yeah, I just think if the Padres make the playoffs and they get swept in the playoffs, I still think it's worth with the trade deadline. I think it's worth trying to change the organization as a whole, and one way of doing that is by accomplishing something you've never done before, especially in a winning sense, and that is make the playoffs 3 years in a row. If the Padres make the playoffs this year, and they're 2 games out, and they still have a chance, there's a lot of games, there's enough games left in the season, they have the ability to do that. It would be the first time in franchise history that they had made the playoffs 3 years in a row. I think that's something worth considering a success, considering the, from a macro perspective. A micro perspective, obviously, over the last couple of years, you would want to see them get to that next step. I mean, they made it to the NLCS, and they haven't made it back since. You don't want to do the reverse path of NLCS and then losing the division and then losing the wild card and then not make the playoffs, which they're currently on pace to do. But I think the Padres making the playoffs, considering the circumstances, would be solid. And then you see what happens with the new ownership group that comes in. But I can't get upset at the end of the year. Like the game that eliminates the Padres from contention, it's going to happen this year. I mean, eventually it's going to happen. There's only one team that's not going to have that game. And that day it's going to be frustrating and it's going to hurt and you're going to feel like it's just going to be a gut punch. But after a couple of days pass and you look over the 2026 season from a whole, if they made the playoffs when that happens, I think you could safely say it's going to be it would be a successful season for the Padres. 833-288-973, 833-288-973 if you want to join the show. When we come back, we're going to take a look at what else is going on in the sports world with our sports thread. 11:40 on a Thursday. Big Padres game tonight against the Arizona Diamondbacks. First pitch at 6:40. Equal Water SoCal Padres pregame show at 5:40. Well, that's not good.
That also checks out. So
for Noel McLean.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Mets in general.
Yeah,
but
I like those. I like those away alternate tops. Those are
I
funny.
don't like the blue on blue though.
The font's cool.
No, the font is great. Yes, but I don't like the blue on blue.
I don't mind it. I think it's all right. I think it's nice. It doesn't pop though. I mean, it'd be nice if like the letters were white, probably. But
that's the.
It's not terrible. I mean, there's a lot of teams that do stuff like that now.
That's the New York that they had on in the late '80s, like after the '86 team. It's like the 88, 89, 90, that New York across the front.
Even if, because I know it's like a darker blue right there, but even if it was like, if the numbers and letters on the writing was like black, it would like pop a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we're going to get you an NFL training camp update in just a little bit as well. Sam in the chat, when's the Holy Bowl this year? There is none because I don't want to play. So there's that. He knows that. He's a Saints alum. He understands. He understands the assignment on that. So take that for what it's worth. High school football. I was telling Frank, I'm like, I've done enough now. Like after today, I'm gonna be like, all right, I'm kind of ready to start playing games now. And here's the thing that sucks about that is our first week is a bye. So we're going to go through like next week. Like I got 2 more practices this afternoon. I had one this morning. I have 2 more practices this afternoon. I'm doing JV and varsity, so it's not one team is practicing 3 times. Make that clear for people who want to go. Cardino's practicing 3 times. So I had JV practice this morning, and then there's a JV in the afternoon. They're doing a doubleheader, 2 a day, and then varsity's got to practice this afternoon, and then practice again Friday. Practicing on Fridays suck because Fridays are supposed to be football game days. And so we got practice again on Friday, and then we got practice again Saturday morning. And then, next week we'll go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And now, like, here's the other thing, too. Like, Wednesday of next week, guess what else starts up? USD soccer. I got USD women's soccer against Cal State Fullerton next Wednesday.
There you go.
So next week, next week, I got Wednesday, I got football practice, I got JV and varsity after the show. And then I go to women's soccer at 7 o'clock at Torero Stadium. And then Thursday, I don't know the times yet. We're scrimmaging at Modern Day Santa Ana. So Thursday is going to be I'm getting out of here quick because JV usually scrimmages like earlier. I'm hoping the freshmen go at like 3 something in the afternoon, and I can like try to make it up there before 5 o'clock for the JV scrimmage and then varsity later. So that'll be a long day. And then the next week we're off, and then we got Orange Lutheran. The southern section doesn't allow the JV and varsity like on the same day, like kids that play in both. So we have to go up there as a JV team on the following Thursday. So I'm going to be doing multiple trips up and down the coast because, the week we're off, probably going to go scout Orange Lutheran. They're hosting Miami Central, who's a top 25 team in high school. So that'll be a fun game. So I'm going to go up there for that. So I'm going to go up there to Santa Ana for the scrimmage on Thursday of next week. The week after, going to go up there for the Friday at Orange Coast. Orange Lutheran plays Miami Central. And then the next week, we'll go up there for Thursday game against Olu on the Thursday, and then we have the Friday first game. And then just to make matters even more fun at that point, then we're going to Arizona the next week. And they moved the JV game in Arizona to Thursday, so I'll have the Thursday, Friday back-to-back. I decided what I was going to do, by the way. I'm doing the show Thursday. I need to talk to Adam about equipment for Friday, but I'm doing the show that Thursday of Labor Day weekend, the round table and all that stuff, and then I'm going to leave Thursday after the show. Mm-hmm. Fly out there, got a game at 7 o'clock there, stay there Thursday, and then do the same thing again Friday. Except we'll be doing the show from the hotel, probably. High school football, back in action. Catch the fever. All right. What else is going on in the sports world besides baseball and, of course, high school football? Let's find out.
You know that group chat? The one that's always blowing up with the biggest sports takes, debates, and breaking news?
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me?
Yeah, we've got that too. Welcome to the Sports Thread, where we break down the top 5 stories in sports, just like you would with your crew.
Oh, no! Disaster! What a bad idea!
No filters, no silence, just real talk.
All right, what do we got going on today? Oh, wow. We got Jets Nation Inside Camp tonight at 6:30 on SNY. You going to be tuned in for that? That sounds like cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah, that does. I think they banned that from Sing Sing, actually.
Number 1.
FIFA is trying to move past one of the biggest controversies of Gianni Infantino's presidency after abandoning a proposed $20 billion plan to sell off a 20% stake in future World Cup revenues. The organization admitted mistakes, apologized to member associations, and reaffirmed support for Infantino, but criticism continues from UEFA, European leagues, and prominent figures like Luis Figo. With FIFA presidential elections approaching in March, questions about governance and leadership remain front and center. Even though FIFA backed away from the proposal, is the damage to Gianni Infantino's leadership already done, or can he regain trust in the global soccer community?
Well, I think the damage is already done with FIFA in general. Isn't most connotations, like most people think of like FIFA as corrupt, regardless of who's in charge? Mm-hmm. I mean, so from the get-go, it's already like that. I don't think anything they're going to do is going to change that. Maybe that's why he doubled down on some of that stuff. So I don't think that really changes anything. I think everybody knows that. Yeah,
he is out in March, thankfully.
Number 2.
The Cincinnati Reds. Who are we talking about as a potential trade piece for the Padres coming from the Cincinnati Reds?
Oh, it was Hunter Green was made available.
Hunter Green was in the news these past 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
He's back on the IL with right elbow soreness.
Uh-oh.
It's on the 15-day IL. Green experienced discomfort throwing a bullpen session, then underwent an MRI and is awaiting further evaluation. The injury comes 5 starts after returning from the offseason surgery to remove bone chips from the same elbow. Despite his electric stuff and ace potential, Green has struggled to stay healthy throughout his career, making more than 26 starts only once. The Reds chose to keep him at the trade deadline, believing that he and all-star Chase Burns could anchor the rotation for years to come. At what point do recurring injuries change how a team should build around a pitcher with ace-level talent like Hunter Green?
I just, Tim Stauffer was talking about today, just with the human body and throwing as hard as these guys do. It seems like it's just only a matter of time for a lot of these guys. I just feel like you can't give these guys long-term contracts. Especially guys that haven't had Tommy John surgery yet. I mean,
what did Chase Burns just get?
A long-term contract.
Yeah,
I feel like you can't do that for guys that throw the ball very hard. I mean, it's almost like if you draft and develop these guys, great, and then you got to be willing to just let them walk at the end of their contract, just because you're not going to be able. There's going to be years you're going to be paying these guys to not play for you, like to just be on the IL. It's just only a matter of time. It seems like, especially for the starters that do this all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I agree with Tim Stauffer in the sense that he said it's not sustainable.
No, it's not.
This style of pitching.
No, and you're seeing it. You're seeing every pitcher is having Tommy John surgery now. It's harder to find a pitcher that hasn't had it than one that has.
And I think a lot of it is too, like just we talked about the youth and throwing all the time in travel and then throwing all the time in high school, and then a lot of these college pitchers are throwing all the time. I mean, there wasn't a break. There used to be breaks for these guys, a long time ago. That's why you could see these guys go deeper into games. They weren't throwing everything, and they weren't giving you everything in every pitch. But the philosophy changed at the major leagues, the philosophy changed at the lower levels. You wonder why guys' arms are blowing out left and right.
No breaks. Santa Claus doesn't give any breaks.
Number 3.
No break.
Red Sox ace Garrett Cole is finally on a throwing program after missing more than 3 months with shoulder and lat injuries. And he's making one thing clear. He will help Boston however he can.
While the hope is that Crochet returns as a starting pitcher for the playoff push, the lengthy ramp-up process could make a bullpen role more realistic. The left-hander who finished second in AL Cy Young voting last season said he has no ego about his role and is simply eager to contribute to the Red Sox team that remained in contention despite his absence. If Garrett Crochet returns in September, should the Red Sox ease him back in as a dominant late-inning reliever, or is he simply too valuable to not build back into the starting rotation before the postseason?
I think at this point you should just make him a reliever for this year. I mean, you got to be thinking about long-term, right? I mean, isn't that what you have to be thinking about? He sounds like he wants to contribute in any way possible. So from that perspective, I think that's what you have to go with. I think you have to go with something like that.
He said he's willing to do it, so may as well let him.
Number 4.
Federal prosecutors say De Niro Laster,
Gesundheit.
sure, a co-defendant and longtime friend of NBA player Terry Rozier, violated the conditions of his release by allegedly contacting witnesses and posting rat emojis on social media in what prosecutors described as possible intimidation tactics. Laster is accused of helping distribute inside information tied to a 2023 game involving Rozier as part of a broader NBA gambling investigation. Prosecutors are now asking a judge to revoke Laster's bond and hold him in custody until trial. The developments add another layer to one of the biggest gambling-related cases currently facing professional sports. As sports gambling continues to grow, should leagues and law enforcement do more to protect the integrity of games and prevent insider information from being exploited?
What did you say? Should insiders and
as gambling continues to grow,
should leagues
and law enforcement be doing more to protect the integrity of games and prevent insider information?
Leagues should be doing this, not law enforcement. But law enforcement's got their own problems they have to deal with. If leagues policed it, then you wouldn't have to worry about law enforcement. This is called having rules for betting.
It is
not getting in bed with gambling companies if you're a sports league.
It's so wild to me that now this guy Laster is posting rat emojis on Twitter and just blatantly calling out witnesses. I mean, that's just insane. What a turn for this story.
It's hilarious.
It's stupid is what it is.
Number 5.
Indiana Fever guard Sophie Cunningham says she's ready to move on after comments she made about transgender athletes in women's sports sparked national debate, protests, and widespread media attention. Cunningham called the controversy a distraction, saying the focus should be on the outstanding basketball being played across the WNBA, where the...
I'm sorry, did you say great basketball?
No. Outstanding
just like their All-Star game was so outstanding.
While the discussion surrounding transgender participation in sports continues both politically and across professional leagues, Cunningham says her attention is now solely on helping the Indiana Fever continue its playoff push. When social and political issues become intertwined with sports, should athletes continue using their platforms to speak out, or should the focus remain on the game itself?
I mean, I believe they should focus on the game itself. I know that's going to upset some people, but to me, it's like if you have the right, or you have the ability to make your platform into anything you want it to be. But just know there's consequences to certain actions, and the consequences are you might create distractions. I think the WNBA in general is more worried about extracurricular things than they are about their actual sport.
Yes.
They're not talking about anything that involves the actual sport and the game. Seriously. I just feel like the WNBA is more focused on everything but their actual sport. And it's a lot of noise, and there's not everything that comes out with the WNBA, it's not like, oh, so-and-so just dropped 35 points. It's what is her opinion on this? What is the coach's opinion on that? What is this opinion? What is this controversy? It's like a soap opera, that league.
Caitlin
which, by the way, is
Caitlin Clark took another forearm to the back and didn't get defended by her teammates.
Funded by the NBA in general. That league is what that league is. That's all I gotta say.
And it keeps getting shoved down our throats.
Oh yeah. Well, I thought you were talking about the Mets there for a second. You're not. It's a leadoff single, or a 2-out single for the Mets. When we come back, we're going to get to a NFL training camp report. New lunchtime hour on 97.3 The Fan. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show. San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Today's new lunchtime hour, we're going to dabble in a little football. We're going to talk Aztec football after their first day of camp yesterday. We're going to talk NFL as well here in this next segment. 1 o'clock hour, back to Padres baseball. We're going to have some more conversation with tonight's game against the Arizona Diamondbacks. We also will have Bob Scanlan joining us at 1:35, so we got a lot to get to in the next 2 hours or so. But let's dive into what's going on in training camp. Today, we're featuring Buffalo, Baltimore, Indianapolis, Denver, Dallas, Chicago, Atlanta, and Arizona. Let's head on out to Buffalo, Frank.
In light of their stadium now entirely being gone, yes, we will start off with Buffalo.
R.I.P. Thanks for the memories.
Where the first...
The new one looks great.
Yes, it does. The Bills just had their first fully padded practice and looked more like Week 12 than Week 1 of training camp. Fights broke out all over the field. Teammates had to be separated multiple times, and offensive lineman Alec Anderson even joked that he enjoyed punching a teammate after a late hit. But underneath all the chaos, Josh Allen and new receiver DJ Moore might already have one of the best connections in football. Is Buffalo's biggest reason for optimism the chemistry between Josh Allen and DJ Moore, or the physical edge that this team seems to be forming?
I think they have had that physical edge. I like the fact that they got that physical edge. If you want to see some of this in camp, you want to see a fight every once in a while, you want to see them be aggressive, right? I think they've always had that in Buffalo. I think more reason for optimism is, Josh Allen has needed a little bit more of a supporting cast. I don't think DJ Moore is like the big answer for Buffalo coming from Chicago. I don't think he's a real number one, but I do like the fact that he already has a good connection with DJ Moore. I think that is going to help Buffalo here in 2026. It looks like Allen already trusts Moore deep down the field. Multiple teammates have said their chemistry has looked unreal. The spectacular deep completion against 3 defenders has become the highlight of camp so far. And, Buffalo desperately needed another explosive weapon opposite, Khalil Shakir. They have the running game finally established. So if Moore can become Allen's true number one downfield target and stay healthy, this offense becomes a lot harder to stop than it was just last season. You got an elite quarterback, elite receiver chemistry. That often develops over months, but they were able to do it in some days. I think that's a very encouraging sign, and I think that's a big sign to why Buffalo is going to be good this year. I mean, they already have some good players, but I think it's more from that determining the future of the Buffalo Bills than it is that physical mentality that you've seen out of teams in the past. You've seen out of Buffalo teams in the past.
Quote the Raven, every year there's one rookie more that nobody saw coming. More. I'm quoting the Raven.
Not the one from Edgar Allan Poe.
This is what the Raven.
You got the report from a Raven?
This is what the Raven is saying.
Are you nice to the Raven?
I am, of course.
Because they remember who's nice to you and then they tell their friends. Did you know that?
I always feed the Raven.
Yes. Be nice to Ravens. They remember you.
Yes.
And they tell their friends.
Quote the Raven, every year there's one rookie that nobody saw coming. Through the first week of Ravens camp, that player appears to be wide receiver Jacoby Lane. He's making spectacular catches every day, and now Baltimore's offensive coordinator compared his hands to Michael Thomas. How much should we buy into Jacoby Lane's breakout camp? And is this the next Ravens weapon, or just another August superstar, unquote the Raven?
I think it's another August superstar. He's got to do it in games. We haven't even had any preseason games yet. Today's the first preseason game tonight. The Hall of Fame game tonight. Looking forward to it. Was it Carolina and Arizona?
Yes.
Carson Beck might be one of the only players in history to play in the last college game of the year and then play in the first NFL game of the year. We'll see how that goes tonight.
That would be an interesting question.
There's no way that's happened more than this year. I would be shocked. I mean, the odds of you getting
drafted by the team,
right? Yeah, being in the national championship game, getting drafted by a team that's playing in the Hall of Fame game, but like also not being like super good where they're worried about you getting hurt as a rookie, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting storyline to watch for tonight. I think it's just another August superstar for Baltimore in Jacoby Lane. I got to see it in real games. Every camp has a surprise receiver. Pads in preseason games change everything. Rookie receivers often flash before facing NFL defenses. Baltimore already has established targets. I mean, I just think a lot of reports during training camp are always like, these guys are so unbelievable. You don't really realize how good NFL players are until you go to a practice and you realize that everybody's a stud. And you're like, wow, these guys are all great. This team's going to be good. And then they go like 7-10 now. You go, what happened? It's like, oh, I don't know. There's other teams that have way better players. Surprise camp stars and darlings and stuff like that we see every year is like some of the biggest eyewash from the media. First of all, like in the NFL, these guys have to cover every single practice and give a report every single day so we can talk about it on these talk shows. I can't put that much weight into what's going on in these practices unless I'm physically there. I mean, we have some good takeaways from practice while we're at high school practice, but there's a lot of time like, who are they going against? What's the intensity? Like, is that a sack? Is that not a sack? I mean, these are all plays that are happening right now where the quarterback's not allowed to get touched. It changes the dynamic. So I'm sure he's having a great camp. I'm sure he could help the Ravens out, and I'm not saying this doesn't mean he's not going to have a good season, but I think when you have situations like this, you have to pump the brakes a little bit.
Maybe so far the biggest surprise out of camp for...
This is our Colts. This is our team. We bleed blue.
Isn't necessarily who's winning the quarterback competition. It's that Daniel Jones has completely erased the biggest concerns surrounding him. 5 practice, every first-team rep, no restrictions after an Achilles injury. Has Daniel Jones already won the quarterback job for the Colts?
I think it would have from last year, just how well he how well he played. I'm not sold on Daniel Jones. I don't think he's the answer for the full season, but he's going to get all the first starting reps. He's going to be the starting quarterback for the first couple of weeks, and it's just whether or not he can keep it throughout the year. I don't think necessarily he's going to be the reason. I don't think he's going to take the Colts to the promised land. I don't. I think it's remarkable that he's back already. I think that's great news for Indianapolis that they can just, instead of waiting for Daniel Jones to be able to practice and get in the swing of things, they can hit the ground running from the get-go. I think that gives Daniel Jones his best opportunity for success, but it was such a small sample size last year of him actually having success compared to what he was doing in New York that I got to see more from Daniel Jones. I think he answered one of the big questions, and that is he going to be healthy enough to start week 1? I don't think he's answered the biggest question, which is facing Indianapolis, is he good enough to get you to the postseason? I don't necessarily think that's the case. I mean, they brought in what? They brought in Phillip last year, right? At the end of the like midway to the end of the year. And, they did fairly well, but they didn't have a lot really going on for them. It's not like Phillip Rivers really hurt their team. Their team was very mediocre. So I think Daniel Jones needs to show me more before I can really lock into him answering the biggest question facing the Colts.
One of the biggest signings this offseason
the Denver Broncos.
was adding Jalen Waddle to give Bo Nix another explosive weapon, but now Waddle leaves practice with muscle tightness. Sean Payton says he'll be fine, but it raised another question because the Broncos suddenly have a deep receiver room. If Jalen Waddle misses time, do the Broncos have enough receiver depth to avoid missing a beat?
I mean, you got Marvin Mims, you got Troy Franklin, Pat Bryant, Cortland Sutton is expected to be back quickly. I would say no, because there's a reason why you brought him in here in the first place, right? To be that dynamic player. I mean, Sutton alone doesn't replace Waddle's explosiveness. He's getting up there in age. I mean, he's got to be able to develop a little bit more with Bo Nix. Still developing as a quarterback. I mean, he needs to work on his timing. I mean, injuries pile up quickly across the board. I mean, you brought Waddle in to be a game changer. They don't have enough depth to do it without him. That's why they brought him in the first place. Even though they have had Marvin Mims continuing to improve, and Troy Franklin had one of his best practices, and Pat Bryant has flashed. I mean, these are names that are not names that you're drafting on your fantasy team, right? Jalen Waddle's a difference maker. So if Jalen Waddle does miss time, the Broncos don't have enough at receiver to avoid missing a beat. But I don't think he's going to miss time. I think some of this is precautionary. I mean, camp sucks. It's hard. You're trying to get your body into football shape, and I think Sean Payton knows that as a veteran head coach that he is. So I don't think Jalen Waddle's going to miss a lot of time, but he's definitely very significant to the point where if he does go down, the Broncos are in trouble offensively.
The Dallas Cowboys rewarded Javonte Williams after a 1,200-yard season, but now the coaching staff says fans haven't even seen everything he can do. Offensive coordinator Clayton Adams believes Williams is a much more versatile runner than people realize. Can Javonte Williams become one of the NFL's most complete running backs and not just a power runner?
I mean, he's proven he can carry the workload. The coaches see the untapped outside zone ability that he's got. He's got quick feet, creates versatility. He's hard to tackle. A bigger role for him could open up the passing game a little bit more for Dak Prescott. But I think it's easy to praise players in August. I mean, I think you need to have production outside the tackles in games as a running back. I think you need to show your versatility a little bit more. We've seen him as a power back, but I just haven't seen that yet from Javonte Williams. I'm not sold yet on him because you're going to get a little bit of a defensive adjustment. I mean, you had a breakout season. You're now on everybody's radar, especially when you play for the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm not willing to say he can become one of the NFL's most complete running backs yet. I think he's still a power runner. He did a fair job last year for the Dallas Cowboys, but I don't think he's going to be one of those most dynamic players. The only reason why he would be is if the guys that just signed the big contracts come back down to earth a little bit. But I don't see that to be the case.
Darnell Wright just became the highest right tackle in football paid by a team that is known as
The Bears. The Bears.
And instead of talking about money, Wright spent practice praising his offensive line coach and demanding more from him. Meanwhile, Caleb Williams looked sharp again. What deserves more credit for Chicago's progress, the coach or the talent?
I think the coaching. Because I think we've seen this talent without this coaching staff. It was awful. So I think the coaching staff with Ben Johnson has changed the culture of this team. I think he's gotten the most out of a lot of these players. He had success in Detroit as the offensive coordinator. He's showing that he has success here in Chicago in his first year. And we'll see what he does now. Teams are going to adjust to what they do, and they do have talent. Don't get me wrong, but they had talent right before he showed up, and they weren't very good at all. So I think he's getting the most out of Caleb Williams, and they're going to need him to get a lot out of Caleb Williams for the Bears to be very good in 2026. And now there's expectations because he made the playoffs last year and won a playoff game against the Packers. So I really do think it's the coaching. The talent helps for sure. You can't win without good players, and they have good players. But they had good players in the past on this team, and a lot of the same good players. And so I think the general manager's done a great job in giving Caleb Williams everything he possibly can and be successful. I think the coaching staff they brought in is also good, but I would credit to the coaching right now a little bit more than the talent that the Bears have.
Michael Penix Jr. finally said what everyone already suspected, that if he can't practice 11 on 11, then he can't compete for the starting job as quarterback. Meanwhile, Tua Tagovailoa keeps making more first-team reps. Is the Atlanta quarterback competition already over?
I think so. Michael Penix Jr. just admitted himself. Tua Tagovailoa, has taken nearly all meaningful reps. You need to be with the number one group. You need to get into a rhythm. You need to get in tandem, develop that relationship with your fellow, players on the offensive unit. And week one's getting here quickly. I mean, the coaches need continuity, and timing with starters matters. And so if you're not practicing, you're not helping. Like, your best your ability is your availability, and if you're not available, you're not a good player. Just plain and simple. So I think the writing's on the wall. I think this is Tua's job to lose. I think Tua's, going to be the starting quarterback week 1, and Michael Penix Jr. will be just ready to back up. I mean, he doesn't have too much time left, and the thing is, his injuries could change things. I mean, we'll see how the preseason goes, but as of right now, he's really behind the 8 ball, and he's missing a great opportunity.
Sometimes preseason isn't just for players, it's for coaches too. Arizona's entire coaching staff gets its first game together in the Hall of Fame game later on tonight, and offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett says this is about learning game day operations as much as it is evaluating players. How important are preseason games for brand new coaching staffs?
I think they're extremely important. I think these are like the dress rehearsals, right? This tells you how are we going to go through our game management? How are we going to go through our warm-ups? What is our approach to travel? You have to practice those things. It's very important to practice those things and not be caught off guard with your routine on an NFL Sunday or a Thursday night game or a Monday night game, whatever it may be. This is where you learn how to do these things. This is where you control, your tempos, and this is where you figure this stuff out before you get to the regular season. So when you get there, it all comes as second nature. So I think it's very important. Booth sideline communication gets tested for the real time. You got timing and substitutions. I mean, there's a lot of mistakes that happen in week 1 that you can eliminate with these preseason games. I wish we had preseason games in high school. I mean, the scrimmage is fine, but it's transitioning into your punt return team from defense. It's like knowing who's on what special teams units. It's the booth to sideline communication is very important. I've been on headsets that it's just noise. It seems like as everybody's talking, like knowing when to talk, knowing what's valuable in terms of important information, like that's all stuff that you hash out in the spring, in the preseason, and that's why these games are important. I know they're important from a standpoint of making money for the NFL, but the reason why they have these preseason games, evaluating talent and making sure that you got your dress rehearsals in for the regular season because you don't want to make these mistakes week 1. So,
and that's your ball game.
There you go. New York Mets, a Lindor home run?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, 9-5, top 7. Mets getting hot at the right time, Frank. Don't count out the Mets yet.
All they have to do is go 38-9.
Thought we were out of it.
We're out of it.
Pull me back in.
Hope you're not.
Aztecs started football camp yesterday. We'll get you a report on what happened. All right, this is our live reaction to the MLB trade deadline. It's officially over as we record this on Monday, trade deadline day. It's 30 minutes after the deadline, and we know exactly what the Padres are getting now in the trade deadline. They have acquired Robbie Ray. They have acquired Casey Mize. They have acquired Gage Workman. Let's talk about Gage Workman first. At this point, he has only had a handful of at-bats in the major leagues. Okay. He has done most of his damage in AAA. I think he has a total of like 50-something at-bats in the big leagues. He does have 2 home runs in the bigs. That's this year. He's played on a handful of different teams, a couple of organizations. He is 26 years old, and he's a left-handed bat. So this is something I think is a cheaper buy that you might be able to get some value out of. Maybe in the long run, I think it's a nice little, risk, if you will. It's not probably the big bat you wanted, but you know what? I think at that point when they were negotiating for Casey Mize, they probably couldn't go get a Larnach or a Alec Burleson. I think the Padres did a pretty good job with the trade deadline. I don't like the fact that they gave up Cash Mayfield for a rental pitcher, but the way Casey Mize has been pitching this year, we talked a lot about Robbie Ray already. The Padres made their rotation 100 times better than it was in these moves. The biggest loss, I think, is the Cash Mayfield part of it. I mean, you've already traded Jackson Wolf twice. And here's my thing on Jackson Wolf. If Jackson Wolf was worth if he was really good and the starting pitching is what it was, do you think he wouldn't have been up with the big league club already with being in El Paso for most of the time? So overall, I give it a solid B. I don't like the fact that you had to slightly overpay for Robbie Ray. I don't like the fact that you had to give up one of your top 3 prospects for Casey Mize. They're both rentals, but you accomplished what you wanted to accomplish, and that was solidifying the rotation and adding a left-handed bat.
I don't think necessarily you're giving up Cash Mayfield for Casey Mize. I think you're giving him up for Gage Workman. And I think Workman would still fit up here on this roster if you send Rodolfo Duran down. Instead of carrying 3 catchers, you can now have 2 catchers. You'll have 4 outfielders, gives another outfield option, and 2 guys in Workman and Jace Bowen, 2 outfielders that don't have a lot of major league experience that could work towards it. So I think if you look more towards Cash Mayfield for Gage Workman, I think that kind of makes a little bit more sense as far as time that those guys have. But yes, it's undeniable that with what this Padres starting rotation was going into today, based off of what it is now at 3:34 p.m. on Monday, August 3rd, it is so much better than what it was this morning.
They don't trade anything from their bullpen, which I thought was very interesting. Yeah. I thought for sure, they might have flipped in a Jeremiah Estrada for a Larnach, right? Or like move somebody in the bullpen to help your team. They don't do that. They trade away, a couple of prospects for, in arguably one of the worst farm systems in Major League Baseball, as picked out by, MLB Pipeline. And they're able to turn that without giving up Ethan Salas or Cruz Schoolcraft or Tucker Musgrove, and you're able to get 2 big arms for it. I think that's great. Now, the big conversation is, and we'll talk more about this on the talk show, you have to add Ray and Mize to this roster now. This like chaos pitching group at this point with Ray and Mize, you have to add, that's 2. Morgan and Adam are expected to be back sometime during August and early September. Musgrove and Pivetta are going on their rehab assignments starting Tuesday of this week, and who knows how that works out for the Padres. And Giolito is expected to return at some point this season. That is 7 pitchers that need to be added to this roster. Yeah, that's a lot that you're going to have to lop off. I mean, those are guys like interesting decisions about, has Kyle Hart pitched well enough to be on this team? I don't necessarily know he has done poor enough to not be on this team, but he's got options. JP Sears has options. But if you just take those 2 off, now you're thinking about Canning. Is he still on this team? Or Edman Marquez, is he still on this team? And if you cut those guys, that's 4. You still got 3 more players that you have to part ways with. And we're talking about Estrada, Matsui, obviously not Miller or Morahone, Peralta, Rodriguez, Vasquez. I mean, cutting 3 out of that group or moving, it's going to be a difficult decision. Now, that's assuming that everybody is healthy and actually does come back. But it's an interesting conversation. But this pitching staff got a whole hell of a lot better after the trade deadline. And I think that means all of our guests join us on the SDCCU Fan Hotline. It's not Big Bank Banking. It's better. Bob Scanlan will join us at 1:35 today to talk Padres baseball as he's out there in Arizona getting ready for Padres and Diamondbacks.
Closer for
very
today.
Pivotal game in the series. Very pivotal game in the season. Speaking of seasons, Aztecs football basically started their season yesterday. San Diego State officially opened preseason camp. Familiar atmosphere under Sean Lewis. High energy, fast tempo, physical competition, and a culture built around accountability. Much of the routine looked identical to last year's first practice. Lewis made it clear that 2025 success means nothing entering 2026. The biggest visible difference is laid out in Kirk Kenny's article on the breakdown of practice yesterday and what camp looks like for the Aztecs, the punch the clock prop players tap before practice now features the Pac-12 logo instead of the Mountain West logo, symbolizing obviously a new era for the program. Despite coming off a 9-4 season, Sean Lewis is intentionally treating this roster like a team with everything to prove. Not a bad message to start off for Sean Lewis. I mean, he repeatedly emphasized this team has to establish its own identity rather than live off of last year's breakthrough season. That's a great philosophy to live by, especially with the success that the team had last year. I think you go back to a Mike Leach speech after a Texas Tech loss where he said, that was last year's team. That was last year. This is a new team. This is a new identity. Roster is dramatically different. We talked about the fact that the offense returns a lot of players, but the defense only returns 3. They have to replace 8 players defensively in terms of starters, which, based on the way the defense played last year, I think that's going to be a I don't think it's going to be that big of a task because I think the defense is really good last year, and I think the culture of this defense is very good, but you got to be able to find the right players. There's going to be serious competition in the defensive backfield. We've talked about the pass rush. That's going to be competition. What's the status of Tana Latuli in terms of his injury he got from last year? But, last year doesn't matter. It was last year. I mean, that's the quote from Sean Lewis from yesterday. And I think that's very important for a team that went 9-4, considering the expectations they have in 2026. Now in a brand new conference, even though you've played a lot of these schools before, but it's the best schools coming from your conference mixed with a couple of former Power 4 schools. You throw Texas State in there. It's going to be an interesting group and an interesting season this year for the Aztecs. I think it's a season that they can have a lot of success in, but I agree with the mentality, Frank. You don't want to think about last year because that was last year's team. You got a brand new team this year. You have to replace some NFL draft picks. You have to replace some guys that enter the transfer portal, but the core is there. The message is still there, and I'm excited to see what Sean Lewis could do in year 3.
You definitely take lessons learned from last year, but other than that, last year's team was last year's team. They also didn't finish all that well. I mean, they lost 2 of their last 3 games to end last season when we were talking about
lose a bowl game too.
Yeah, they lost a bowl game. This is after we were talking about them possibly winning their last Mountain West championship. So there are lessons you could learn, but last year you want to put behind you, especially with how it ended. You're going into this brand new season, new expectations, new outlook. You're picked to finish high in the division in the conference this year. There's a lot to gain from last year, but there's also a lot new to look forward to this year.
I think, the culture hasn't really changed too much based on some of the reporting. I mean, they got the players clock in before practice. They got, the music playing during practice. They're doing high tempo. They're doing fast transition between drills. I think that's everything that you want to see in a football team on day one. They're having competitive one-on-one periods. They're trying to show that physical edge. And a lot of the motivational phrases on the clock that they show that Kirk Kenny reported on, blue collar nasty, work works, punch the clock. Even played Danger Zone on the jukebox, if you will, out there at practice before James Brown closed things out, continuing the traditions that they established last season. But, just because they're entering a new conference, and we're going to talk about the new conference excitement in a second, they're not reinventing the program. I mean, they're reinforcing what worked last year, for this team. And these are all fun sayings. It's all coach speak, right? Blue collar nasty and work works and hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, you still need good players and you need to be able to execute in order to be a good team. So this is all great. And I love all the phrases and stuff like that, but they got to be able to show it on the field this year after having a really good year last year.
Yeah, this is where you start to cement yourself as a contender, as a perennial contender for the conference. It's good. It's easy enough to have one good year, but to be able to sustain that and become a consistent contender for the conference championship, that is a completely different level that San Diego State hasn't necessarily been at over these last couple of years. And under Sean Lewis, this is looking like the best chance to be able to do that this year.
Let's talk about the Pac-12 again. Not from a snarky standpoint that we have been, because it's kind of funny. Let's talk about it from a perspective of actually winning this conference. I with it becomes new excitement, obviously. Here's the thing, like, the competition is going to be better. Everything about this move is better than what it was. Okay? This new conference, do not take me making fun of the Pac-12 and them claiming they're a Power 4 conference and me thinking the conference is going to stink. It's better than what it was. I think considering the options for the Aztecs in terms of where you could go, this is better than being in the Mountain West. Clearly, I mean, you're taking some of the best football programs from the Mountain West. You're adding them to two teams that have been in Power 4 competition in the past. You add Texas State, who has had a couple of good years in recent history, and you got yourself a pretty good conference. But it's not a power conference. I mean, if you continue to try to sell that to me, I'm going to make fun of you. But it's exciting for players because the conference is definitely better as a whole than what they were currently playing in. You're going to have better competition. It does give you a little bit more cachet than the Mountain West. I think, winning the Pac-12, I think, puts you in the conversation of being the best group of 6 team to potentially make the college football playoff. If they were a Power 5 school, they would get an automatic bid. You wouldn't have to worry about it, but they're not, because they're not a Power 5 conference. But from Lucky Sutton's perspective, as the running back for San Diego State, local kid here who played for us at Cathedral, even though many schools are familiar opponents, the overall league quality has increased, and the players understand that they're entering a bigger stage. I agree with that. You're going to have, I thought the TV deal in terms of money sucked, but in terms of being on linear television, it's great. You're going to have opportunities now to play in front of a national audience. You're going to be playing better competition week in and week out. You're not playing Wyoming anymore. You're not playing San Jose State. And I know they lost New Mexico last year, who had a good year. New Mexico is not one of a perennial college football schools at this point. You're playing the Boise States, the Fresno States, the Colorado States, who have been some of the better schools, Utah State in the Mountain West of the last couple of years. You're playing former Power 5 schools in Washington State and Oregon State. Now, Texas State's still a little bit of a mix-up, but it's going to be exciting, I think, for a lot of the guys on the team. And the biggest transition, of course, is the defense. And we've talked about that yesterday, but you have 8 new starters. You're going to have new leaders that need to develop. You're going to need some chemistry that needs to be built quickly. Senior edge rusher Brady Nassar embraced that challenge. His identity is, we got to be fast, we got to be violent, explosive, physical, and he believed day one was already faster than last year's opening practice, which I think is good. And a lot of the defense, I think, rolls with what some of these injuries are, specifically in Tano Latuli, who is 9 months removed from ACL surgery. He's currently wearing a knee brace, as Kirk Kenney reported. He's got a limited workload. He's participating mentally and physically, and Lewis is easing him back in. I will tell you this, as somebody that has coached that kid before, he's going to be mentally prepared for the season. It's just a matter of getting his body up to speed with his injury. But he's going to be mentally prepared, and he's probably, I'm going to tell you right now, Tano is probably leading that defense still, even if he's not participating, in terms of like full participant in practice. Having a guy like that on your team and being the leader that he is, being from San Diego, I think is a huge add. So getting him back will be huge for this team. In terms of other players that got some injuries to report on from last year, you got to keep an eye on. Jordan Napier is returning from an ACL injury. He's wearing a knee brace right now at camp. He's still running routes, and he's participating more fully. That's good news for the Aztecs. Jacob Bostic, he's returning from an ACL. No visible brace, and he's been active in drills, so that's good too. And Sean Lewis stressed that there is no reason to rush veteran players who already have years of game reps. Sports medicine and player communication will dictate the workloads. I'm telling you right now, just from coaching Tano Latuli in the past, he's going to be mentally prepared to play week 1. So the time off will be good for him in limited practice. And I think Sean Lewis knows that too. But it's exciting to have football back, Frank. Exciting first day at the Mesa yesterday, and I think they could build off of what they did last year.
Yeah, 100%. They absolutely can. You can use last year as a building block, especially for the offense, to be able to get more time together, rebuilding the defense as well. You have a lot of turnover on the defense, but there are still some key contributors on the defensive side of the ball that are still here that can really help implement the San Diego State system and get some of these guys up to speed. So yeah, definitely excited for opening week at the end of the month.
We got an update on what the Mountain West schools are going to get back from the Pac-12 schools and the poaching fees. They finally put that to rest. How much is it going to cost San Diego State? We'll tell you about that when we come back. But also, need a contestant for the Midday Sports Standoff. If you came down sports trivia, give us a call, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We'll get to both of those things when we return on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's number sports station, 97.3 The Fan. All of our guests join us on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not big bank banking, it's better. We're going to be joined by Bob Scanlan in the final segment of the show today.
Show
at
closer.
1:35, show closer. You're way too excited for that. I know what you have wheeling back there.
I know you do.
You're way too excited for it. You can't don't overshow your cards here. Don't overshow your excitement. People are going to fold.
I wasn't showing any sort of excitement. I was just saying that he was the fact that he was the fact that he's closing out the show. That's what I was.
You had a smirk on your face. Go back and look at the replay. People aren't buying your BS there, Frank. They see right through it. Something's up you got something up your sleeve.
Yep. I do.
Something you're working on. Here we go. All right, we do want to get to the midday sports standoff here in a second. Pac-12 teams are forced to pay the Mountain West. They're not paying nearly as much in the exit fees. Mark Ziegler had an article on here. The Mountain West was seeking $100 million in exit fees from its departing 5 schools and another $55 million in poaching fees from the Pac-12. But the divorce settlement is for less than half of that, according to multiple sources inside and outside of the conferences who spoke on the condition of anonymity. In the wake of Monday's joint announcement, they had finalized a settlement first reported by the Union Tribune back in May. Statement said San Diego State and 4 of the defectors have reached final agreements to settle all pending litigation among the parties. Federal court in Northern California hearing the case had given the 2 sides until September 1st to formalize the settlement. San Diego State, Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and Utah State are each on the hook for just $10 million in exit fees, less than half of the estimated $20 million due under Mountain West bylaws for leaving with 1 year's notice. Oregon State and Washington State will pay slightly more in poaching fees from a 2024 football scheduling agreement. Started at $10 million for each Mountain West school that joined a reformed Pac-12 and increased from there. The cost of 5 schools of $55 million. In all, the total settlement for both the exit and poaching fees is believed to be just north of $70 million or less than 50 cents on the dollar. One source put it closer to 47 cents. It amounts to money going in both directions. Mountain West bylaws allow the conference to withhold annual distributions from a school as soon as it submits a formal notice of departure. That happened in June of 2025, meaning the Mountain West kept roughly $6 million per school from both the July 2025 and July 2026 distributions, and now would owe them roughly $2 million. That money presumably will come from an incoming poaching fees owed by Oregon State and Washington State, somewhere between $22 million and $24 million total. So that was like a big thing for the Mountain West. They thought they were going to be able to get some money back from the Mountain West schools leaving for the Pac-12. They are going to get some money back, but not nearly as much as what they anticipated. I think they would have to be expecting that at this point, but that's been settled now, so San Diego State's going to have to pay like $10 million to get out of that old conference and into the Pac-12, where they will get, what are they getting, $6 million in TV rights?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting to say the least. I'm just glad it's in the past now, and hopefully it's not going to, it's way less than what it was expected to be, which is good news for the Aztecs.
Not just the Aztecs, but everyone leaving that conference as well. So they're all going to get that benefit from that, which is good for the schools, I think.
Yeah, Oregon State, I agree with Jake Waters in the chat. Oregon State, Washington State signing the schedule agreement where they couldn't steal Mountain West teams was dumb to begin with. We won't do that, and then they ended up doing it. It's crazy. All right, let's get to today's Midday Sports Standoff. We got Padres tickets for the winner, but if Dom is unable to win, we're going to open up the phone lines for the prize. So let's see what we got. All right, who we got playing?
We have Dom in Chula Vista playing today. Dom, how you doing, bud?
Dom.
Doing great. How are you guys?
Good, good. All right. So today's question, there are 11 possible answers to this question. And this does not include this year's trade deadline. It does not include this year's trade
I'm sorry,
deadline.
you're going deadline pickups the last 2 years, but it's not really the last 2 years.
Because this was supposed to be on Monday, and it still kind of fits.
Well, I guess you could add 3 names to that list then. You could make it 14.
I also don't want to be here all day.
There's 3 names. They picked up 3 guys this year. We all know who the guys are.
Fine. We'll do the
Last 3 years.
Last 3 years. So then who are the trade deadline pickups for the San Diego Padres that have played in the major leagues? 3 trade deadline pickups for the Padres over the trade deadline pickups for the Padres over the last 3 years. Dom, you have the first guess.
Let's go with Casey Mize.
Casey Mize, yes.
Casey Mize is correct. We're going to go with, we'll just go with Robbie Ray. Keep it simple.
Okay.
Dom?
Jason Adam.
Jason Adam was a trade deadline pickup for the Padres in 2024, correct?
Let's go with Ramon Laureano.
Ramon Laureano last year.
Let's do Hunter Goodman.
Who was that?
I said Hunter Goodman.
No. Hunter Goodman, not a trade deadline pickup.
All right, so let's go with, Gage Workman.
So we got all the ones out of this year.
Dom?
Let's do Brandon Lockett.
Brandon Lockridge.
Was that for
I don't
Anuel De Los Santos?
That was before the trade deadline, really, if I remember correctly. So I would say
We're just talking about deadline deals?
Yeah, like
Okay.
yeah. So that would be sorry.
All right, let's go Ryan O'Hearn.
Ryan O'Hearn last year, correct?
Dom?
Mason Miller.
Nope. You're right. You're sorry.
Are you kidding me, bro?
My mistake. They're right next to each other. Calm yourself down, will you, over there, huh? Make your next pick. I'll buzz you next time.
So who have we said?
We said the 3 from this year: Mason Miller, Ryan O'Hearn, Ramon Laureano, and Jason Adam.
Let's go J.P. Sears.
Yes.
Do we have all of last year?
Dom, no, not yet.
I'm gonna go with long ago, but I'm just gonna go with Luis Ariz.
No, sorry, that's 3 strikes, Dom. Luis Ariz was picked up like at the very beginning of May, the first couple days of May that year. So the phone lines will be opened up for the tickets at the break. Braden, you want to guess who else we got here?
Okay, hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We should have 14.
Yes. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 left.
We have all 3 from this year.
All 3 from this year. You have 4 of 7 from last year, and then 1 of 4 from 2024.
Last year they traded Lockridge last year for Nestor Cortez.
Nestor Cortez.
Okay, there's probably a small one in there. I forgot. Back to 2024, they acquired Scott and Hoeing from Miami.
Yep, got them both.
And then
1 pitcher, 1 infielder, and then a catcher.
Martin Perez was 2024.
There's your pitcher.
They acquired a catcher? Oh, Freddie Fermin. That was last year.
Freddie Fermin, and then your infielder. He has played in the major leagues, but he hasn't been
well, that's last year then.
Player.
That would be Will Wagner. He picked up last year.
It was a smaller pickup. It wasn't a big.
Yeah, Will Wagner, right?
Yes,
Will Wagner.
Yeah, I said, yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear you say
Will
Wagner. I'm
Wagner.
sorry.
You might have to look at the Lockridge one.
Yeah, I will.
I'm
look
pretty
up the
sure
Lockridge
Lockridge
trade.
was on deadline day for Enlo de los Santos. It was like near the end of the
I
day.
will take a look at the Lockridge trade. But that is done. Hold on.
Okay,
I will look that.
14 players in the last 3 years. So we have Mize, Ray, Workman, Fermin, Wagner, Miller, Sears, Laureano, Hearn, Cortez, Adam Scott, Hoeing, Perez, Lockridge. I mean, when you think about it, the grand scheme of things from like a 26-man roster, moving 14 dudes the last 3 years is crazy.
All right, I will take these callers here for the tickets.
Who do we want to give it to? We didn't announce.
That is also true. We didn't say what number.
We just said we'd open up the phone lines. So we're gonna go with the let's go with the sixth caller. If you call in sixth caller, you will win the Padres tickets for Padres and Brewers coming up on Monday. That's where you get the fun little comic book shirt. I got one for you right here. Look, you will get that. You don't get that with the tickets if you win. You get that if you show up and you're the first 40,000 people. So there's the shirt, back of it. It's like a comic book and stuff. It's great. Sixth caller, you will win the tickets for the game on Monday. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973.
Bullet Motorsports, love you too, bud.
I'll let Frank handle that. I mean, the thing is like, he still got the Goodman one. Even if he got the Lockridge one right, he still got the Goodman one wrong. So, anyway, that was that. There's so many movement at the trade, so much movement at the trade deadline for the Padres the last couple of years. Tonight we got not only do we have Padres, but I wish the clunker of a game last night happened on the night that the NFL was back. I know I'm not going to pay too much attention to the Thursday night game, but it'd be good. It's going to be good to have football on in the background while I work on stuff when I get home today. It's good to have football back on your television. So I think that game, if I'm not mistaken, is like at 5 o'clock or something like that. I'd have to double check. Yeah, 5 o'clock on NBC tonight. Carolina and Arizona. There's got to be people that put money on this game. I can't imagine putting like money line or spread on the Hall of Fame game with the Panthers and the Cardinals. But Carolina's fair by 1.5 for the people that are like that. Anyway. When we come back, we're going to talk more about Padres baseball. We're going to give you a preview of tonight's game. We'll talk why the Padres are going to Walker Buehler on the hill against Cole Drake. We'll get that for you in the 1 o'clock hour. We will talk about San Diego FC and their game tonight against Club America. And then Bob Scanlan will join us at 1:35 on the Fan Hotline. 1 hour to go. Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego Sports Station, 97 through the Fan.
Hey, it's Chris Ello from Gwynn and Chris, and if you like sports, we got you. If you like random banter about life, we got you. We'll talk about it all, 2 to 6 p.m. weekdays on 97.3 The Fan.
Did you know Better Buzz Coffee now has egg bites, and they're freshly made in-house?
Wait, so they aren't pulled from a plastic bag and microwaved?
Not even close. They're handmade daily in the kitchen and served hot.
And 2 Carnitas egg bites have 24 grams of protein?
Sure do. Made with cage-free eggs, savory carnitas, roasted peppers, and melty cheeses. There's a delicious veggie option, too.
Definitely not your average egg bite.
New egg bites, only at Better Buzz Coffee.
This is the story of the one who keeps multiple buildings running smoothly day after day. Plumbing that flows, HVAC.
1 o'clock. Final segment. Or sorry, hour of the Braden Surprenant Show. San Diego Summer Sports Station 97.3 The Fan. Fun day today. A good roundtable discussion. Tim Stauffer was our guest. If you missed any of that, you can go find it wherever you get your podcast. You can also rewatch on YouTube. We broadcast live every day. YouTube.com/B_SURP. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to our YouTube page. We really appreciate that. Give us a like on the YouTube video if you have not done that also. You can also get our shirts on the YouTube page as well. It is in a link below on our YouTube page. It says new merch on there, and go out there and help support the show. We really appreciate that. I do want to get to this before we talk about the Padres again, and I know you know this, Frank, and I want to see if we can find it. The Purdue athletic director, I mean, what was his thinking on this? Purdue's athletic director decided to take a shot at Indiana today?
I got it ready.
In a press conference? They're just like meeting before the season, right? Mm-hmm. Before the year starts. Here is Purdue's athletic director.
Tommy McClelland.
What is Tommy doing? Has he had too many Boilermakers himself? What is he saying here? Here's the athletic director for Purdue.
Every recruit, every current student athlete will hear this message repeatedly. We are here to win championships. If you don't want to win championships, go to Indiana.
Excuse me? Who is the reigning national champion in football right now?
Illinois.
No.
Oh.
Notre Dame. No.
Oh, it's another team that has an I. It's
Indiana State.
Indiana. Yes, Indiana State.
Sycamore?
That's
no.
right.
Southern Illinois. No, that's not it. No. That would be
Iowa.
No.
State.
Good guess though. No, not the Cyclones. It would be Indiana.
Oh.
As Alex Trebek would say,
The
that would be
Hoosiers.
Indiana. Yeah, it's the Hoosiers. The school that he said if you don't want to win championships, you could go to Indiana.
Okay.
I mean, what are we doing here? Like, Cignetti already has like a giant chip on his shoulder. Like, whoever the head coach is of the Purdue football team's got to be sitting there going like, bro, what are you saying?
Why would you do
this?
Why would you do
Why would you do this? I mean, I get where he's coming from. Like, he's supposed to be like, hey, this is Purdue. And is he a new hire? Is that what this guy is?
Yep.
Is he a new hire?
He is.
This is why they're called the Purdue sometimes. So this is the guy. Is this his first press conference?
It's his introductory press conference.
So
yes.
during Tommy McClelland's first introductory press conference,
I would hate to think he's going to have a second introductory press conference. But.
Yes. His first time ever talking with the media as the current role. And this is a guy that's coming from the director of athletics at Rice University. Yeah, this is fun when you make fun of
Charlotte.
Houston, I guess. I don't know. Who else is in that conference? Who else is down there? Is that Lamar? Is that a rival of Rice?
Texas State. Oh, wait. No, they're going now.
But, our first order of business in taking over Purdue is to call out the school that just won the national championship in football.
November 28th is going to be very interesting.
Was that when the Boilermakers play the?
And it's in Bloomington.
Nice. I can't wait for that because when Purdue shows up, they're gonna be 2-10 because they're awful. I mean, Purdue. We're talking about a Purdue. Well, you know what? They were 2-10 last year. I stand corrected. We're talking about
what's
a
the rivalry game name?
It's don't they have a giant barrel or something like that?
It's the old Oaken Bucket.
The Oaken Bucket. Yeah, it looks like a barrel, right? It's got the little hooks of the teams that won on the side, the Purdue logo and the Indiana logo. Let's talk about this for a second. Indiana, by the way, what?
I'm on Purdue's website right now, And you know how like every now and again when you go to a certain team's website, they'll have like an automated chat pop up in the corner. Hi there. Welcome to the Purdue Athletics live chat. We have representatives available to answer your questions on weekdays between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Boiler up. I want to ask, what was your athletic director thinking?
I want to point this out.
Antagonizing the reigning national champions.
I want to point this out for our guy, Tommy McClellan. Does he know that Indiana football in the last 2 years has won more playoff games than Purdue football has won regular season games? Does he understand that?
No.
Does he understand that? In fact, Indiana football has won more playoff games than Purdue, or just as many, actually, just as many playoff games as Purdue has won conference games in the last 3 years. Purdue in 2023 was 4-8. They went 3-6 in conference. In 2024, they're 1-11, 0-9 in conference, and in 2025, 2-10, 0-9 in conference. This is Barry Odom's second year. Barry Odom's got to be like calling up McClellan, being like, "What are you doing, man? What are you doing?"
One thing that I will say is very fun about Purdue. I have a friend who graduated from Purdue as an engineer, graduated with an engineering degree out of Purdue. Every year, Purdue holds the annual Purdue Grand Prix, where they allow their engineering students to just go buck wild on go-karts, and then they race them.
What does that have to do with this?
I'm trying to point out something
Guys,
that they could beat Indiana in.
Guys trying to make this about racing so bad.
I'm trying to give Purdue something that they could beat Indiana in.
Let me explain it even further on the Purdue Indiana deal. Now, I will say this. Purdue leading up, before Cignetti got to Indiana, Purdue is coming off of winning 5 of the last 6 against Indiana. Okay? But we talked about the wins, right? The playoff wins.
Yeah, that doesn't really mean much when they've won the national championship.
How about this? Indiana has won as many playoff games as Purdue has scored points in their game against Indiana the last 2 years combined. They played Indiana 2024 and lost 66-0. They played Indiana last year and lost 56-3. Purdue in the last 2 years have scored the same amount of points as Indiana has won playoff games against Indiana. And that's the team we're going to be like, if you don't want to win championships, go to Indiana.
Maybe he was talking about basketball.
Purdue's been a little bit better in basketball than Indiana has. I will say that. But, I mean, 66-0. And you're going to be like, hey, man, Indiana. Now, I will say this, okay? In the grand scheme of things for Purdue, like overall in football, they have dominated Indiana in football. I mean, the last 2 years is kind of funny. I just think the timing is interesting.
Yes.
I get what he's trying to do. He's trying to like rally up the Purdue alum and the students and the Purdue fans going like, yeah, we hate Indiana. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, if like J.D. Wicker was showing up on the first day, he'd be like, if we're here to win championships, you want to win championship, go to Fresno State. People be like, yeah. I get what he was trying to do. The timing seems a little off when they're coming off of winning the most important college championship, which is football. I feel it's a little bit of a rough patch, especially since you have been completely dominated by Indiana the last 2 years. I mean, they have been outscored 122-3 in the last 2 years against Indiana. I feel like time and place, man. Time and place. That being said, Purdue all-time is 78-44-6 against Indiana in football. So all-time, like, he's got a point. But in terms of the last 2 years...
Currently,
like, what have you done for me lately? You know, it's not very good. I mean, it took Indiana 5... Jeez. This is how I love the website Winsipedia. Have you ever messed around on Winsipedia? The first time Indiana and Purdue played football was 1891.
Okay.
Purdue won 60-0. 1892, Purdue won 68-0. 1893, they won 64-0.
Jeez.
The first 3 years of Purdue and Indiana, Purdue outscored Indiana 192-0. 1894 must have been a forfeit because Purdue won 1-0. I don't know how you can win 1-0 in football. And then
Kick a field goal. Make it seem like you did. Kick an extra point.
1897, Indiana put up 6 points.
Yes, let's go.
Lost 20-6. Then lost 14-0. The first 6 years of Indiana Purdue, Purdue beat Indiana. This is just amazing, these old scores. Purdue beat Indiana 227-6. And then Indiana finally won their first game against Purdue. They won 17-5 in 1899. So you know what? Maybe the athletic director was just talking about the wrong era of Purdue football.
Turn of the century.
Right.
We got it now.
We got it. I mean, 60. Those are some crazy scores. I mean, the fact that you're getting 1,800 scores in the year 2024 and 2025, and that's when you decided to pop off at your rivals, hilarious.
I thought you only got 4 scores in the 1,800.
It was 4 scores in 7 years ago.
There you go. You got it.
Nice. I'm glad you are telling us about the Gettysburg Address.
He draws the foul.
Yeah, that's terrible. Who wrote the Gettysburg Address or presented it? Do you know that one?
That would have been Lincoln.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, we're 2 for 2. Hey, nice. Little history lesson for all the kids out there.
You guys got a football history lesson in football nonsense today.
For Purdue and Indiana.
Yes.
I just felt like that was kind of ridiculous on the athletic director's part. I mean, what are we doing? Like, why? I ask this question all the time.
It's a wild statement. It really
I
is.
ask this question a lot in high school football. I go, why poke the bear? Why? What's the point? I don't understand. I don't get poking the bear. I see schools do it all the time, and I go, why are you doing this? What do you get out of poking the bear? Purdue, what do you get out of this? I bet you Cignetti doesn't even address it because he knows, like, this is like the easiest game on our schedule. Ridiculous. When we come back, we'll talk about San Diego FC. We have some news to report on, plus Padres baseball, why Walker Buehler's going today, not Robbie Ray. We got asked that question, and Bob Scanlan will join us not too further after that to finish up the show. Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego Sports Station, 97 through the Fan. We're going to give you a reason why San Diego FC and their fans should actually feel good about the 1-1 draw with Minnesota. Yeah, they did fall behind early in just 3 minutes into the match. And yes, they struggled in the first half, but the championship caliber teams that we've seen in soccer find ways to earn points even when they're not playing at their best. That's exactly what San Diego FC did. Mikey Voris made 3 substitutions in the second half. Alex Mighton immediately won a penalty. Anders Dreyer buried it, and CJ Dos Santos came up with a huge saves to preserve the draw. This wasn't about flashy soccer. It was about resilience. Earlier this season, San Diego won by overwhelming teams offensively. Now they're proving they can grind out difficult road results. That's a huge sign of growth. If San Diego can start games with the same intensity they finished them, this team has every reason to believe it can make a serious playoff run. Is San Diego FC becoming one of the most complete teams in Major League Soccer? Well, we'll discuss that here in a second. But, Frank, this is a team that wasn't able to finish. Now they're not really able to start, but they finished really strong. At least they're in a position now where they get points in the standings instead of a late dramatic loss.
They nearly stole that game, too, as Marcus Ingvardsson hit 2 crossbars late in that game, including one with like maybe a minute to go in stoppage time in the second half. So it's been an interesting change from San Diego FC. It's not quite the team that we saw before the World Cup break, and they're still not quite the team they were at last year or even at the beginning of this year, but they're starting to put pieces together. They put a lot of focus on the second half of matches It bit them in the opening match coming out of the World Cup break, but these last two have been very, very positive signs for San Diego FC moving forward.
Yeah, just in terms of the details, I mean, Minnesota struck just 3 minutes into the game, and I got the notification on my phone. It was during the Padre game too, so I was like, oh, maybe the Padres did something but then I realized I was at the game, and so it couldn't possibly happen before. So I was a little upset at the fact that I looked down, because that's the deal. When I'm watching the Apple Sports app is so fast that you get the buzz. You're like, what happened? And you're like, something amazing is about to happen. I'm sitting there going like, I get the buzz in my pocket. I'm like, something amazing. Wait a minute. I'm at the game.
I'm here.
It's not a prediction, right? So I looked and it was, oh, wow, Minnesota's already up 1-0 on San Diego FC. What the hell is going on? Anyway, but they adjusted. They made some changes. They had a good clean sheet in the second half. And, the player spotlight has to be CJ Dos Santos. While Dreyer will receive plenty of attention for converting the penalty, Dos Santos quietly turned in one of his best performances of the season. First half saves prevented Minnesota from putting the game out of reach before San Diego can settle into the match. And then, second half, he really shined for San Diego FC. He's a big reason why this team won.
Yeah, it's so nice to have your starting goalkeeper back, which is something that this team has missed all year long leading up to the World Cup break. So to have CJ Dos Santos back and to have him have as big a performance as he had, also made a couple big saves late as well, that is a huge, huge point of emphasis for San Diego FC, because again, you could have had the Dreyer penalty, but without CJ Dos Santos, you're in a position to where that Dreyer penalty may not have mattered.
So what's up ahead now for San Diego FC? Well, they shift its focus toward the opening phase of Leagues Cup, where every match becomes an opportunity to build momentum before returning to MLS play. The club has shown all season it can control possession and create scoring chances, but the next step is finishing those opportunities earlier in matches instead of relying on second-half rallies. And this is a team, by the way, that hasn't had too many second-half rallies. They've had more second-half failures than anything else. So they're still putting together a good 80 minutes, Frank. It's really the 10 minutes to make it 90 that has been a little bit of a problem. So as they now transition into Leagues Cup, it's a good break in terms of take your eyes off the standings of the MLS. This is a kind of, I view as a good opportunity to get back on track in games that aren't going to affect how you are in the table for the MLS.
Yeah, you're not going to be playing another MLS match until you see LAFC on September 15th. However, there are 3 matches in between that. Coming up on Thursday, you're going to have Club América in the Leagues Cup. Then after that, it's Tijuana on Sunday, August 9th. And then it's Puebla on Wednesday the 12th. So you're going to be seeing San Diego FC playing here. All of those games are going to be on Apple TV, except for the Puebla game. That will be on Apple TV, but it will also be on FS1. That'll be next Wednesday. So Club América this Thursday, and then Tijuana on Sunday for this week upcoming.
Thursday at 1:18, broadcasting live at the Bell House Studios. We know how. We got an update for you on San Diego FC we want to get to. It's the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego Summer Sports Station, 97.3 The Fan. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. We got some news coming out of San Diego FC from earlier this week. They will be playing a game tonight, right? They play tonight?
Tonight
against Club América. They're in the Leagues Cup, so we'll see how San Diego FC does tonight. We'll have Drake Hills on tomorrow to discuss tonight's game. But we have some interesting news on the Chucky Lozano situation, as he is on the verge of a loan move from San Diego FC to the LA Galaxy for the remainder of the 2026 MLS season and potentially longer. Multiple sources had confirmed with the San Diego Union Tribune that San Diego FC and the Galaxy have agreed to terms, but the deal is stalled because Lozano holds a strict no-trade clause and must approve any move. The paperwork has been in his hands for several days, awaiting his signature. SDFC sporting director Tyler Heaps reiterated last month that the club's position is unchanged and the outcome depends entirely on Lozano deciding whether he still wants to play. Lozano has not appeared in a competitive match in 9 months, has trained separately since January, and is no longer part of the club's sporting plans. The proposed loan would not be popular with either fan base. Galaxy supporters have questioned taking on a 31-year-old left winger who skipped opportunities to stay match fit ahead of a home World Cup, while SDFC fans are obviously unhappy about sending a former star, some of them are, and the face of the expansion franchise, I put that in quotations, to their fiercest rival, a rivalry that already produced violent post-match brawls and mass supporter bans last season. Financially, SDFC is expected to absorb a large portion of Lozano's $9.3 million 2026 salary, and per the MLS Players Association figures, he would become a designated player for the Galaxy. Removing him from San Diego FC's books would free a designated player slot that the club has already used on newly signed Tunisian winger Elias Nkori, who has been introduced but has yet to play. It would also create flexibility for a potential third DP alongside Anders Dreyer, though no immediate signing is indicated. San Diego FC apparently paid a reported $12 million transfer fee to bring Lozano in from PSV Eindhoven?
It's just PSV.
PSV. And has already paid him about $7.6 million last season, plus significant share of this year's salary. He has 2 years remaining on his high-value contract. Obviously, the relationship soured last year late in the season after a reported locker room tantrum when he was substituted at halftime. If they could get rid of him in the contract and open up a designated player spot, this is a win for San Diego FC. We'll see if he actually signs off on this. This is the most news we've gotten on the Chucky Lozano situation since really they've had a Chucky Lozano situation. So if he signs off, that's great news for San Diego FC. But they've had a handful of days now where he has not signed off on this yet. So we'll see what happens.
The assumption is that he has signed off on the deal because the LA Galaxy posted a video about an hour ago with a jersey in their locker room turning.
Oh, so
but
maybe
it cuts off like right before. And fans are not happy. LA Galaxy fans are not happy looking through the comments of this. But yeah, it appears as though Lozano has accepted that transfer, loan to the LA Galaxy. So he will be he'll be active and playing again for the first time since the end of last season in any aspect, because he hasn't been with Mexico either, the national team. So he will be back on the pitch again for the first time since late September.
Yeah, we'll see. It sounds like they're trying to finalize it. It hasn't been official yet. The LA Times were reporting on this as of 6 hours ago, so maybe they're very close to a potential deal to get this done. I think it's worth paying him to go away if he was such a problem and you don't want to deal with him anymore, strictly on the fact that it opens up a designated player spot, which then you could spend enormous amounts of money on a brand new star, which has significantly hurt San Diego FC, I think, in this season.
Yes, and there is a chance that he may be gone for good. We don't know the specifics of the deal yet, of course, but we do know it's a loan. In soccer, there are multiple ways to get rid of a player. It's either through basically a trade, more or less, a loan where you still own the rights to the player and you can call him back from loan at any time, or a loan to buy, which is basically you loan him out to the team that you're selling him to, but you also negotiate a sale price that if the team that is taking him on the loan wants to keep him, then they have to pay you that pre-agreed upon price for the sale of the player. So we don't know yet which one it is, if it's just a straight loan or if it's a loan to buy. One thing that we do know, though, is that San Diego FC has both of their matches this year against the LA Galaxy still yet to play. And the one that is going to be the most precedent is going to be on August 29th here at Snapdragon Stadium.
Yeah, I think that's interesting to watch once this deal goes through. And, hopefully they can add another player. I mean, is there anybody that has been linked to potentially be the third designated player for this team?
Not that I have seen. There was a lot of talk surrounding Mohamed Salah, who coming over from Liverpool. He signed with Turkish side Trabzonspor earlier this morning. So he is off the table. So if there's another international signing that they're discussing, I have not seen it.
Interesting news. I think this is good news for San Diego FC fans. I really do. I mean, at this point, I'm sure there's a handful that just love Chucky Lozano and think that the team hasn't been playing well because he's not on the team. But he just seems like a massive distraction at this point. And he's eating. If he's not going to, the biggest problem is if he's not going to play, or you're not going to play him. I mean, think about like how much you do not want to have this player play when he's eating up one of your positions where you can pay endless funds for some of the best stars in the world, potentially, if you can woo him with money, burning that spot for the sake of this guy. Like, think about that. That's how much they don't want this guy to play on their team.
Mm-hmm.
And so just by freeing that spot up, regardless of situation or how much money you have to pay him to play against you, that's a huge ad for San Diego FC.
Yeah, it's a huge addition by subtraction, and I can guarantee you will not see a single thing change with how San Diego FC performs on the field.
No, I don't think so.
Every issue that San Diego FC has had this year has absolutely nothing to do with Chucky Lozano, and none of the issues that San Diego FC have had on the field could have been solved by Chucky Lozano. None of them. You will see no changes.
So they got Club América tonight.
Yes.
And Club América is like a very iconic.
Yes, one of the bigger clubs.
I actually watched them play Tijuana at Snapdragon not too long ago. It was not their team, but
I was there.
It was a fun little deal.
I was there, I believe.
So this game is in Mexico?
Yes, this game will be in Mexico. Then the next two. So you have tonight, you have Sunday night at 7 p.m. That's San Diego versus TJ. That will be here at Snapdragon. And then on Wednesday, you have San Diego FC versus Puebla. That will also be here at Snapdragon Stadium.
Yeah. So tonight, how is Club América? Like when these leagues cup, I mean, are you getting their best shot? Are you not getting their best shot?
You should be getting America's best shot here tonight. America right now, they are currently sitting atop of I believe it'd be the first half standings for in Liga MX right now. They are 2-1-0, 4 points. They're tied actually with TJ at the same exact record at 2-1-0 atop the first half standings for Liga MX season. So the way Liga MX works, you have two seasons. You play first, second half. This is, I believe, they go on the European international schedule, so they are in the first half of their season.
That game's tonight, 7 o'clock, Apple TV. We'll see how San Diego FC does. How do the Padres do tonight? Well, we'll check in with Bob Scanlan, our weekly hit with Bob, broadcaster for the Padres. Give us a preview of a very important game in Arizona tonight when we come back. This guy's been waiting for this for all day. Now coming in to close on the Braden Surprenant Show, Bob Scanlan with his closing music that he handpicked. I like that. Closing out the day. Let's see if it's all right, Henrik. Go out there and get some outs. Final 3 outs here to get us through the end of the day. Bob, thanks again for joining us. Thanks for closing out the show.
Oh, Braden, thanks for the entry music right there. I never had my own song in the big leagues, but if I had to pick one, that would have been it. So I was able to live my dream finally. Thank you, Braden. I appreciate that. Very fun.
Thank you to Frank. That was his big idea. So that was a good. I liked it, Frank. That was good stuff. So
thanks, Frank.
We're joined by Bob Scanlan, Padres broadcaster, joining us in the SDCC fan hotline. It's not Big Bang Banking, it's better. Every week we got lots to talk about, especially on the pitching side of things. And I know it didn't really work out last night. I mean, I think there's a lot of circumstances for why things didn't work out last night. You were down at the clubhouse. You heard Casey Mize. I mean, he mentioned that, he didn't want to use any of those as an excuse. He called his own performance embarrassing. I consider that to be a major one-off. But before we talk about Casey Mize outing yesterday, didn't really get your thoughts, obviously, on this show about the trade deadline, but seemed like the Padres addressed the areas of need by acquiring a couple of starting pitchers and a left-handed bat at the trade deadline.
I'm so curious to hear what your thoughts were on that and what sort of the perception that you've heard from Padre fans, because my own reaction was, holy smokes, AJ pulled it off again. You got 2 of the biggest names, 2 of the guys that have been throwing it the best of late. Obviously, we can talk about Casey Mize having the rough outing, but there was no reason not to think that you've got 2 of the not only experienced guys that have playoff experience as well, but have been throwing the ball really well recently, and bring them in to build up your rotation. So I thought it was a great coup by AJ Preller to be able to pull that off, and I'm still anxious to sit down and talk to him, get some details about how he did it. But is that kind of the perception that you've sensed as well, or am I alone on that?
Yeah, I think for the most part, I think aside from maybe some Doomer fans that wanted to see this team sell and prepare for the future, I think a lot of fans were excited the fact that they were able to acquire 2 really good starting pitchers. I think them potentially not having years of control maybe concerned a little bit of the fans, but at this point it's like that's going to cost you more. And so I think the Padres did a really good job of keeping Ethan Salas, which I think was probably the main goal, acquiring 2 starting pitchers, and not necessarily trading away from the bullpen if they didn't have to. And I think they accomplished all of those things. The fact that they gave up Cash Mayfield, I think, worries some fans because you're looking for young, controllable pitching. But at this point, Bob, you're looking for good, young, controllable pitching, and you don't necessarily know what you got in some of these young guys coming up. And we've talked about this before, but until they make it to the big leagues, they still are just prospects. They are kind of a lottery ticket. So I could see why the Padres made the moves that they did here at the deadline. But for Casey Mize yesterday, Bob, he didn't pitch in 11 days. He's moving all over the place. He's got to worry about his own accommodations, maybe family accommodations. Last thing probably on his mind during this last kind of week was pitching, and he wasn't able to go out there and throw. From a pitching perspective, how difficult is it in the middle of the season to take that much time off and then get out there and try to gear up, especially considering the circumstances of being on a new team and flying to a different place and getting accustomed to something new? I could see why he had kind of a rough outing yesterday.
Yeah, all real topics, right? And I was going to go back and make some comments about your comments about the trades, because I think you nailed a couple things perfectly there, but we'll move on. With regards to Casey Mize, look, they're human beings, right? And you gave a great summary of everything that's going on in this guy's life. I think especially for Casey, a little bit different for Robbie in the respect that he's been traded 4 or 5 times, right? He's gone through this process before. For Casey Mize, he'd spent his entire career in that Detroit Tiger organization, and I can relate to it. And then when I was first traded from the Phillies, I'd spent 7 years in that organization. I felt like they had raised me from a young kid into a professional baseball player and a guy that was ready to go to the big leagues, and saying goodbye to a lot of those people, both teammates, coaches, trainers, front office people. That was 8 or 9 years of my life of building relationships, my scout, all that. And he was going through that. and not only having to go through that, but also relocating his family, as you described, and getting acclimated to an entirely new clubhouse. There's just a lot of things that go on there. And again, he's not using it as an excuse. I'm not throwing it out there as an excuse. I'm just saying those are real life things that happen. And there's a lot of emotion that's going on. And as much as you try to control that and you talk yourself through it and you say, I know I'm going through a lot, but I got to stay calm. I've got to stay focused. I've got to get my sleep. I've got to eat, try to stay on a routine as much as I can in this new environment as I'm learning, 75 new names in this clubhouse. There's a lot going on top of the fact that he hadn't pitched in 11 days. So I don't read anything into this outing at all, other than the one thing I was able to disseminate was just the character of this guy in terms of how he handled himself in the midst of everything going awry, how he, gave his catcher Campy a pat on the chest on his way out, kind of like, hey man, we tried, thanks for your effort, we're going to be okay. And I just thought he handled himself as professionally as anybody could, given those circumstances. So if anything, I walked away feeling like, okay, I saw something about this guy's character that I really respect in the midst of a very tough, horrible situation for him. So I'm expecting him to bounce back. He'll get back into his routine. He'll be back to throwing the way Casey Mize throws. And I think all said and done, the Padre fans are going to be happy that he's here. It was just unfortunate there was such a rough start.
What are your? Let's go back to the trade conversation then. I laid out what I thought. I like the trades, but so you had some comments.
No, I think you nailed two things that were really important. Now, the people that just weren't on board with being a buyer and wanted to be a seller, that's a totally different philosophy, and that's fine. I respect that. But for the people that did want to see the moves being made and going for it, the 2 points I thought that you were really spot on about was you didn't take away from the strengths of this big league team as it existed. They didn't have to trade away any of the bullpen pieces, right? And that was one of the things that we were all speculating might have to happen. And the other thing is, as you pointed out, you didn't decimate your minor league system in trying to bring in these pieces. Two very important points, right? And the part of that also, and I know that some people may have been like, hey, we want to try to get maybe guys that we have control of moving to the future. And you made reference to that as well. You got to remember, this is a roll of the dice at this point in terms of you're trying to get to a wild card situation, and your first round is going to be best 2 out of 3, and anything can happen. So there's also weighing in how much do you really want to give up and invest to try to make that happen. It's a tough needle to thread sometimes, but I think AJ did a really fine job in terms of getting pieces that can help this team win, not sacrificing a whole lot of your minor league system for the future, and keeping the strength of this team in place in the process, which was the bullpen. So I thought you nailed all 3 of those points. I just wanted to spotlight it. Good job.
Oh, well, thank you, Bob. Let's get to the situation this week about the other starting pitchers that you might be adding to this team. We saw obviously you've had a lot of reports from Craig Stammen this week in Arizona about 2 guys that aren't even there. They were out in Lake Elsinore, and we had the wild video that didn't make a lot of sense of Nick Pivetta walking off the mound and looking like he had strike 3, and then all of a sudden it was like an injury scare, and then he goes out and throws another 30 pitches or whatever. As a pitcher, and, I don't have I'm not your doctor, so I don't have your medical records in front of me, so I don't know what type of injuries you may or may not have, dealt with in the major leagues. But whether it be people that you have seen as teammates have to go through it or yourself, I can see from a standpoint from Nick Pivetta, regardless of what happened this week, that when you're out there trying to pitch again and you're coming off of an injury, that mental side of, am I going to be able to do this without having the same thing happen to me, is probably going through a lot of people's minds as they come back from whether it be an ACL injury in football or, any type of ligament damage. Like, you don't necessarily have maybe that same confidence that you're going to be able to go out there and throw that pitch that got you hurt the first time when you go out there and let it rip. Joe Musgrove kind of mentioned that in his thoughts about Pivetta as he's gone through this process. So for you, explain for us maybe, your connection to that or what you've seen from other athletes about how difficult that mental recovery is on top of your body physically recovering.
Yeah, I never went through a Tommy John or major shoulder surgery. Thanks be to God. I was able to pitch 20 years without any major surgeries on my arm in any way. So I didn't go through that side of it like so many guys do now. But I certainly had my share of injuries. And coming back from it, yeah, that is definitely one of the things that you're most concerned about, right? As you feel like you've done all your rehab, you feel like you've done all the treatment. And there still comes a point where it's like, okay, we've done everything we can now. You got to cut it loose, big guy. But after having gone through that extended period of missing time, not feeling like you're being helpful to the team, physically going through pain, emotionally, beating yourself up and wondering, what could I have done different? What more could I be doing? Am I ever going to be able to come back the way I would? All of that type of stuff. And now it comes down to you standing on that mound and cutting it loose 100% because it's time to compete. And that can be scary for some guys. I got the sense with Nick that it wasn't so much that as that he was feeling tightness in that elbow again. And we all know what he's been going through to try to get to this point. And it was probably just a level of complete frustration that took over at that moment, along with maybe a little bit of fear of like, holy smokes, I'm feeling it again after all the rest I've done, all of the treatments, all the rehab, everything. We've followed all the protocols, and here it is. It's time to, make it or break it. And I'm feeling it again. And I just watching him, the way he just stomped off the mound after that pitch left his hand and the frustration was there. I just felt for him. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy thinks that he's probably done. Like he's not going to be able to pitch this year. And he goes into the dugout, and then I haven't talked to him, so I'm not sure what happened. It was a thing of, all right, that happened, but it's make it or break it time. I've got to cut it loose and try to either throw through this pain right now, throw through this discomfort, and find out what happens. And if I blow out, I blow out. But if I don't, I don't, because there's no more time to waste. The season is almost at an end. I can't afford another setback. I don't have 2 to 3 more weeks of, let's give it a little bit more rest and try this again. It was all or nothing at that point. And he went in the bullpen and started cutting it loose with all of his pitches, and apparently felt fine doing it. So, and the even better part is the next day, no negative ramifications for having done that. So that was the great news yesterday, of hearing that both Joe and Nick felt good after those, first live rehab experiences. So it was a very strange thing to watch. I feel for him. I know, physically and emotionally, he was going through a lot at that point, and probably a very courageous move on his point just to say, screw this. I'm going into that pen and I'm cutting this thing loose. And if it blows, it blows. If it doesn't, then I've got to move forward. And it sounds like it paid off for him. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that it continues to go in that direction for both of those guys. Because imagine what this rotation looks like now if you get both Musgrove and Pivetta back towards the end. All of a sudden, what had been a weakness of this team could end up being a strength by the end of the year. So fingers crossed, right, guys?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the strengths has been the addition of Walker Buehler, who's pitching tonight. We're talking to Bob Scanlan on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bang Banking, it's better. Kevin Acee had it in his newsletter today about Walker Buehler reinventing himself, but now actually like fully embracing I'm going to give my team the 5 most competitive innings I can. Not trying to go deep 7 innings and being that ace level pitcher he used to be, but understanding like what he maybe is right now. And I thought he has done a tremendous job of like giving the Padres an opportunity to win through the entire season. I mean, he had probably a stretch of 3 bad starts in a row, but outside of that, he's been really reliable for the Padres in terms of keeping it close, and that's kind of what you want out of any type of starting pitcher. And he goes tonight for the Padres in what is a very much a make-or-break game, as serious as that sounds, with as many games left. But it's an important one tonight for Walker Buehler, and I'm sure with his fireness and his competitiveness, I'm sure he's extra fired up to toe the rubber tonight for the Padres.
I would agree with everything you said right there. And I think he's been very underappreciated or underrated, especially what he did for 6 or 7 outings in a row right before he had those 3 rough ones, all the way up through the Dodger game, right? He was mowing. He was going 5+ innings, allowing 1 earned run or less for 5 consecutive outings. And the 4 outings before that, he'd given up 2 runs, 2 runs, 3 runs, 2 runs. So to your point, every game he was keeping the Padres in it through 5 innings. And then all of a sudden he hit that wall, and you could see not so much the drop in velocity or anything, but there was definitely a drop in terms of the command. And that's when he had those 3 rough games where he gave up a 9, the 7, the 4. And the Padres wisely gave him that extended break where he got 9 or 10 days off. And I think that was huge because he came back and the next outing against the Braves had that rough second inning. He threw 35 pitches in that second inning, which I think had he not had that extra rest, that would have just fatigued him out and he would have been done. But he rebounded from that long second inning and he ends up going 5 2/3 innings against the Braves. So he's kind of back on track. The next outing, 5 1/3. Last outing against the Giants, only 4 1/3. But, he's throwing the ball much more effectively again, locating better once again. And yeah, I think he's done a great job of keeping the Padres in games, giving an opportunity to win those games. He understands who he is at this point. And tonight is a super important game, right? I mean, you don't want to fall 3 games back in the wild card.
No.
The series against the Diamondbacks, certainly important because if you end up tied with the Diamondbacks for the last wild card spot, you want to have won the series against them. And right now they're trailing. If they lose tonight, the only way that they'd be able to win the season series against the D-backs would be to sweep them in the final 3 games of the season. So I think it's going to be exciting baseball all the way down to the end, but clearly this is a very important game tonight for them.
A very important game and a very telling series the last couple of games. I mean, these are the last 2 games really shows for the offense, a recipe that we've seen for the last 2 years now. And, some people have done a deeper dive into it statistically, but, for some reason, the Padres have done extremely well against really good pitching, as you saw against Eduardo Rodriguez a couple of days ago, and they have struggled. In fact, in the last 2 years against, quote unquote, like not as great pitchers or the bottom tier of starting pitchers in Major League Baseball, the Padres ranked 30th as an offense. And you saw that again last night with a guy that has not been on his game for most of his young career, had not really done that great in AAA in terms of getting deep into ball games, and he really stymied the Padres. Bob, are these just kind of a tip of the cap games where you just get some of these guys best, or is this a recurring theme that is frustrating the Padres hitters?
I don't think it's a tip of the cap thing. I mean, there's certainly occasions where it is, where all of a sudden the kid comes out and he's dotting at the knees, elevating when he wants to, dropping his breaking ball in for, there's certain games where it's like, okay, he threw great tonight, tip of the cap, right? But it's not always that case. And I don't have an answer for it, to be honest with you. Last night, the kid Bratt, to his credit, 7 innings, 9 punch-outs, 1 hit allowed. Coming into that game, there was nothing in his repertoire that you would look at and say, oh my gosh, that's electric. That's the thing you need to watch out for. He looked at the numbers. Granted, it was a small sample size. It was 4 games previously or 5 games, and he had not done a good job of finishing guys off. The 2-strike, on-base percentage was extremely high. When he was ahead in the count, the driver's seat as a pitcher, on-base percentage and batting average, extremely high. So it was very, very strange. And even last night, there were multiple occasions, at least 6 that I counted, where the Padres were in good hitters' counts. He threw fastballs, 4-seam fastballs, and the Padres just couldn't barrel it up. So, he doesn't have a fastball that profiles all that, great with 91, 92 miles an hour. Not a whole lot of, created rise out of the spin. It was more just like a low arm slot where he kind of kept it on the same plane. But, is that something that the Padres haven't shown in the past they can get to? Yeah, they have. So it's a great question, Braden. I don't have an answer for it, but it's certainly been frustrating in certain situations like that. And, another opportunity tonight, right, with another kid on the mound. So hopefully they can figure this one out because they need to get some runs on the board. Absolutely,
especially for an offense that's been really good. I mean, last month and a half. Unfortunately for them, they can't have too many of the last night for the amount of games that they have left. Bob, before you go, I got to give you credit. I got to give you credit for the positive broadcast curse last night. I saw that point out. You called the hit right before it happened. I noticed that. You're like, hey, sometimes we get the positive ones. You got to address it when you can. I appreciate you doing that because all of us broadcasters get a bad rap for the broadcaster curse. Sometimes you could talk things into existence.
Boy, I had to take ownership for jinxing Michael King that one game. I do it all the time, but that was the classic one where even my producer was giving me a hard time. He goes, "Are you sure you want to do this hit right now?" I go, "Yeah, let's go. We can take on the baseball gods." So I'm talking about how Michael King hasn't given up a home run in 5 games, and sure enough, the very first hit in the inning, home run. So Hey, sometimes it doesn't work out, but we try to use our powers for good, right, Braden?
That's right, and you used your powers for good last night. So hopefully, Bob, you can talk us into some big runs and a great outing out of Walker Buehler on the broadcast tonight.
Let's do it. All right, thanks. Good talking to all of you.
Thanks again to Bob Scanlan for joining us. Big thanks to Frank Marchese. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow, hopefully after a Padres victory. Gwynn and Chris coming up next.
Padres Diamondbacks today.